310s. Peace. Get this situated here. All right. Just gonna wait for some to cut here. Then we will get going in a minute or two. All right. Peace, Brother Duma. All right, we're just gonna wait a minute or two just for some people to come in, and we're gonna go ahead and get started. All right. Yes, let me just keep this here. I need it. Peace, Brother Gilberto. Here on time, brother. Here on time. All right. Let's get this thing situated here. Myself some room. All right. So real quick, there's a couple quick announcements while we're waiting for people here, but wait for some more people to come in. So I ain't gotta really repeat myself. Just to reiterate, again, I don't know where these months are flying, weeks are flying, days are flying. But to reiterate, we have the upcoming event for this month coming up in 10 days, which is today is already November 20th. The event is on Friday, November 30th. Again, I'll resend the flyer out as a reminder sometime this week. And we will be doing the Black Mass and the Eternal Word of Set ritual. That will take place Friday evening, 8 o'clock, November 30th. I have pretty much responded to people that have emailed and requested an invite. I do know I'm aware of who's coming up until this point. If you have not received the flyer and you would like to request an invite, just email me again at the email in the description box of all the videos. I'll put my email in to type it in, just so if anybody asks later, they can just I can refer to them just looking in the chat log, and you'll be able to see it. That's also the email that's again in the video, the description box of all the videos. Cutoff date for the invite, it's usually the Wednesday before, so I'm gonna say November 28th is the cutoff date. So again, I know this is a hectic time of year if you got to travel, being Thanksgiving the week before, so it's not the easiest time of the year to travel. That's why I kind of scheduled it the last Thursday of the month after Thanksgiving. This will be the last event for the year. We take a break in December. Now, we are doing a private working in the month of December, so I just want to put that out there. I'm not going to put a flyer out for it. I'm not going to announce it. The reason why I'm not going to publicly announce it, again, I know December is another hectic time of the year to travel at the end of the month. I know the airfares are not cheap with the holidays. So if you're coming from out of state, trying to travel from out of state, it can be very expensive. But we will be doing a private working locally. I do know there are a couple that will be down here visiting. I know like Sister Mandy, aka Mama Muerte. I know she'll be down here. You are welcome to come to that event, but again, there won't be no advertisement for it, no flyer. Again, we will convene in the month of January, where we'll start back up. We have some good stuff planned, some good ceremonial and group gatherings planned starting next year. We will do the Eternal Darkness and Chaos Initiation Ritual. If you are interested in doing that, it is an initiatic ritual. I just want to make that clear. There is a physical aspect to the ritual if you are participating, and that'll be kicking off the new year. We'll have more information coming on that going into next month. So I just want to make that clear. November 30th for this month will be the final public working that we'll do for this year. Again, there will be one in December towards the end of the month. We haven't determined the date yet. It will be near the end of the month. And again, that's more of a private thing we're doing here locally. But if you are or do happen to be in the area and you would like to attend, you're more than welcome. Just again, hit me up. I will have more information. Only thing I will put out on the December working will be the date. Again, it won't be no flyer or anything like that. And again, I know this is a hectic time of the year to travel. It could be a little bit expensive buying airplane tickets. So I understand that. So that's why we're not really planning anything for the month of December. We got Thanksgiving obviously coming up this Thursday. I get together with family. I may not participate in the whole meaning of what it means, but I do get together with family and friends, more so for that aspect of it for this month and next month. I ain't gonna get into all that conscious coon shit, tripping out about I don't participate in the holidays, blah, blah, blah. That's a bunch of bullshit. I deal with the family aspect of it. So I do get together with family and friends. Don't mean you have to fully acknowledge what the holidays mean. Again, you can use a magical concept in the sense you can twist and change that to however you approach it. To me, it's just a time where family and friends get together and you get to see people you haven't seen in a while. Some of us in our family upbringings, it's still a tradition that's strong. It's there, so I'm not going to act as if I don't participate in it. I do. So I get together with family. So we got a lot of stuff going on this week, things of that nature. Also for readings and consultations, I know I got back to you, brother. Sister Ikur. It's a little hectic this week. I am taking some here and there. The weekend's a little jammed up. I'm doing my best to get to as many people as I can. I know some of you have emailed me, but with company and people coming from out of state, it's going to be a little rough this weekend. So I'm going to put this out there. If you do email me for a consultation or a reading, if I have limited, free time here and there the next few days. If it fits in with your schedule, so be it. If it doesn't, then we might have to schedule it for next week. I'm saying that because I usually do 2 days out. It's a little tough for me to do that for the rest of this week with everything that's going on, things of that nature. But if you do email me and it's critical you get it done this week, I'll see what I can do. I just want to put that out there. I don't want to promise anything, only because of all the stuff that's going to be going on in the next few days. All right, same thing. You can contact me for that at the same email, khnum19@gmail.com. Some people have also emailed me about doing a class in their state or where they live. I have no problem doing that. I've mentioned this in the past. If that is something you would like to do, all I ask is you get the venue and contact me and we could discuss, the rest. Fairly reasonable. I know when you bring in some of these other so-called lectures and teachers, they charge an arm and a leg. I'm not looking to do that. I'm basically just looking for the expense of it to be covered, things of that nature. But long story short, if you are interested in, and I don't care if it's 5 people there, 10 people there, 20 people, or 100 people there, it doesn't matter. That's irrelevant to me. The thing is, if you got some sincere people there that want to have some type of class or some type of where we have an event, where we have workshops or something like that, that's fine. Because a couple of people have contacted me about that. I'd be more than willing to do that. We could discuss how that works. If you're interested in doing something in your area, just contact me and let me know. We can discuss it further. All right. For all of that, before we get into subject matter, again, emails, I typed it into the chat there, and it's in the description box, khnum19@gmail.com. All right, having said that, I'm going to kind of go back to doing the videos the old way I used to do them. If you've been watching my channel for a while, if you go back to the first 2 years I was doing videos, I didn't use any books or anything like that, so I'm going to stop doing that. Not saying that I'm not going to refer to books here and there. I'll throw some suggestion books out there. But if you go back to my first series of videos, I would just kind of flow with it. I wouldn't really use any books or prepared information. So I'm going to pretty much stop doing that and go back to doing the videos the old way. Just kind of flow with it, and it'll keep the interaction in the chat. I can focus on the chat and kind of deal with that as I go along instead of having to go to the chat later. So you guys can immediately ask questions, and I will address them. So I'll just kind of pick a topic like I did tonight, piggyback off, just create something, and just kind of flow with it. I'm not going to really be using books that much anymore. What I mean by not using books, I'm not going to really have any prepared material and just read it. I kind of got tired of that because to me, I'm more old school when I teach. If you know me over the years, I like to just kind of flow with it. Those that have known me for years, even if you come to a live class, I don't have anything prepared. I just kind of flow with it. It's more natural to me to do that. It's something I've been doing for many years. So I kind of want to go back to that method for now. I'm not saying that might not change down the road, but that's kind of where I'm at with it now. So I don't have any prepared material or anything to read from books. I'm not going to do that tonight. I will start off dialoguing on something. I will look, again, if you guys got some questions, feel free. So peace and greetings to everybody in the room. So what I wanted to talk about tonight, or at least start out with tonight, and again, I'll keep my eye on the chat and kind of, you guys can kind of ask whatever questions you want. The title of the video, you might ask why that title. It's kind of self-explanatory, but it deals with a multitude of dynamics, right? The title, reason why I put set there, all right, and equals works first, then rewards, is because of the simple fact I want to get in the depths on it is about doing work, okay? And I did a video a couple months back, the steads of the rewards and work on this path. Well, nothing can be accomplished without consistent work. And I'm going to explain this because I've noticed, again, this comes up a lot in personal dialogue with people and spiritual consultations, etc., and just regular conversation. The lack of consistency, you understand, in your work. It usually creates a problem why people, again, are not getting the consistent results. You've heard me say many times before in the past that you need to be consistent. You need to stay at it. You have to understand when you're doing your work, especially if you're doing internal work in your personal spiritual chamber. First is raising yourself to the awareness of what needs to be done. Once you are aware of what issues that you have to work on, things you need to attack, issues about yourself you need to address, that should be step one, identifying what type of work you need to do right now. So we're going to deal with the now. Let's say right now at this present moment. Now that could change 2-3 weeks from now, 3 months from now. Because remember, when we say this is about consistency and doing work, this is always constantly doing work on yourself because things change around you, things change in your environment, your social circles change, you have things that come up in your life, business things, work-related issues, family-related issues, relationship. These are ongoing energies and vibrations and frequencies that are around you constantly, but they're changing all the time, quote unquote, either for the better of the good personally to you. And I say good or bad in the sense that good or bad is going to be perceived by the individual as it relates to them. So when we talk about inner work, basic stuff of going to your altar or your chamber room or whatever personal space or sacred space you have set up, through consistent meditation, or whether you're sitting there and what we call contemplative meditation, right? Sometimes contemplative meditation is just kind of you being alone with your thoughts. It may not be that full in-depth where you're locked in meditation, because remember, there's different forms of meditation, but one must have concentration, obviously, first before you can actually attain a state of meditation. If you're doing just basic, consistent work like that on a daily basis, the awareness will naturally come to what areas that you actually need to start focusing on, in your life. Now, If you understand the concept of Set, and why I put Set at the head of that, right? Because Set represents, I want to make it, people get a little bit confused with the gift of Set and the black flame, what that symbolizes or what that represents in left-hand path philosophy, or being an adept on the path of self-mastery, right? Now, this can be perceived a couple of different ways, so I want to be careful in the sense of how I explain this, because many people could perceive this in a couple of different ways. Some confuse it for being the same thing. I don't look at it as the same thing. I'm going to show you or explain briefly how I approach it. The black flame, which represents all of the consciousness that exists per se in the multiverses. That's what the black flame of Set represents. Now, we call it, for an example, I've always referred to Dr. Edward Bruce Bynum as he broke it down in his book, Dark Light Consciousness. Your neuromelanin, as I've said before, when activated and functioning correctly, when you're feeding it and taking care of it the way you need to take care of it internally, it links you into that kind. It's the highway, the pathway, the gateway to those higher states of consciousness. Your neuromelanin, which, as I've said before, from head to toe, every part of your body, from your central nervous system to the organs, the kidneys, the liver, all of it is encoded in that neuromelanin. Now, I've mentioned also before, when we're constantly ingesting synthetics, that neuromelanin is damaged, right? I want to explain this. When you're, and this is why we have to be careful. And again, I want to make this clear, I'm not a doctor. You have to be careful. Some of us are dealing with medical issues. And I know there's probably people watching this video right now that deal with medical issues. So I'm not telling you not to take medication. What I am telling you is to make sure you are combating those synthetics, because those synthetics and medications, especially antibiotics, and listen to the term antibiotics, as opposed to a product you've heard me talk about before on here, probiotics, which counteracts it. A lot of that stuff strips the body of the good bacteria. It actually damages your neuromelanin because they're synthetics. So if you are on medications, my suggestion to you is to always follow it up with something natural. I take probiotics regularly. I've mentioned that before in the past. I'm talking about the kinds that are refrigerated that you go into the herbal store and get. Not the dry ones on the shelf. Those are not as potent because they're dried. The refrigerated ones keep the bacteria, the cultures alive and fresh. You should take one of them a day, anywhere from, they have different brands on the market, 5 billion to 10 billion per serving, to always replenish that good bacteria. And as I mentioned before, you'll find you get less colds, you get less physical ailments. It'll help with some of that rejuvenation on a physical level. I'm saying all this to say, because that neuromelanin is what ties into being connected to the black flame, which what comes or is emitted from that black flame is what we call the gift of Set, that consciousness that you absorb, not just absorb, but that you're able to perceive and put into perspective. So when you're able to have that ability, that's why I said that's where the work starts to come in. The awareness kicks in. The work starts to come where you start now to be aware and conscious of what you need to address about yourself. Now, as I said before, I don't care what anybody says. As far as this is concerned, I'm 100%. I stick by what I'm about to say because I found this to be fact, not just with myself, but pretty much with everybody else that I know that's on this path. When you come on this path, I can't stress this enough. Before you start jumping in and doing all of these rituals or things that you like, it's a must that you really look at yourself and deal with a lot of the internal stuff. Again, not just the stuff you're aware of, right? Because we all are conscious on the surface level of a lot of things that we have problems with. That's part of it. No doubt, you definitely want to address those things that you're aware of. But when you start to go to when you're meditating or doing that contemplative or reflective meditation in your ritual space, in your chamber, okay, the thing that's important about that is that's where things start to come to the surface that you're not aware of. Maybe certain traumas you haven't been addressing about yourself. Maybe certain issues you've been kind of letting go under the radar. Maybe you're not over a traumatic relationship with a significant other that you thought you were. Or maybe it's impacted you more than you thought. Maybe it's an issue where something embarrassing happened to you as a child, and you thought that you were over it. Because you'll find when you're really locked in these different forms of meditation, this awareness starts to come to the surface. Now, as I said before, and let me throw this out there: those that are taking the online classes, we will reconvene this Saturday. I know some of you email me. We start back up this Saturday. Just so you know, we had to skip this Saturday because had an event this past weekend that was committed months prior. So we are back this Saturday. So you guys will get the link. Those that are in the online classes. And I bring that up because that's what we go into. And those that are taking this session know it's actual work. When I say it's actual work, you're going to be doing things now for those that are partaking in that. And I know some of you that are in here are taking that class. Whereas the last session, not that we were doing work, but it was on a different level. Now you're going to really do some of that internal work. That's going to bring shit to the surface that might be a little bit uncomfortable. Some of the aforementioned things I said. So let me see. I see Gilberto typed in a question. All right. So Gilberto types in, I've commented before about in the past being very involved in witchcraft and following a dark path and letting life get in the way of my path. I do remember that. I do remember you bringing that up. And as I've said, I'm going to kind of reiterate what I said when you brought that question up. I'd probably add a little more to that build. Life is always going to get in the way of your path. What I mean by that, it could be issues from your spouse, family. It could be issues with time because you might have a busy schedule. And I believe, if I'm wrong, correct me. I believe part of your issue was that you have a busy schedule. If I'm wrong, correct me. Well, I do remember something in regards to that. And when you brought that question up last time, I think majority of us struggle. That's one of the issues that affect us dealing with consistency is our schedules. I sure can attest. I have a lot of those issues. For an example, I'm on vacation this entire week, and I found myself quickly slipping into lazy mode. Now, part of it's because I've been so busy for the last several months, but it's so easy how the mind will start to adapt to something, and sometimes necessarily not the best thing for you. Now, granted, I want to make this clear. Sometimes you need some downtime. Sometimes you need to just chill on the couch, watch a show that you enjoy, watch a movie. That you need that, no doubt. But I've also found how quick you could slip into that and get real comfortable. You understand? I caught myself doing that this week. I needed some rest and rejuvenation, but then I caught it kind of slipping to the point where it was a little too much rest and rejuvenation. Managing your time and your priorities, as I've mentioned before, in itself is magic. Obviously, in 2018, for those of us that are older, I myself, for an example, I'm 47. So if you're in my age bracket, you can reflect back 15, 20 years ago or so, a little bit more, and see how things have changed. We live in a different society. It's much more hustle and bustle now than it's ever been. Most jobs in the workforce, there isn't no 9 to 5 no more. That don't exist. If you work in retail, for an example, I used to years back, that could be a crazy schedule. So if you're in retail management or sales retail, more than likely you have a crazy whacked out schedule. You probably work all different types of shift, mornings, afternoons, evenings, weekends. I'm bringing this all up because that can pose a huge problem for planning some time for your spiritual work. And then if you're an individual, let's per se, has a family and has children, more than 1, 2, or 3, that poses a huge problem and a challenge, because then it's finding the time. So prioritizing your time is magic in itself. You have to get yourself on your own personal system where you can get time to get work done. But let me see what else you got here. I know you typed something else in there. All right. Kim, no, I am not on Instagram. I am on Facebook, but it's private because I used to have that shit before in the past. It just used to get hit up with. I just don't have the time to deal with. I would go on Facebook, as I mentioned in the past. I would log on, for an example. I created a separate Facebook page under my account dealing with this, but it's like every time I fucking logged on, I was getting IM'd with questions, and it got stupid. And I would get stupid. Religious people would come on there, and I'd have to really just dig in their ass, and they'd start coming with stupid shit. And the reason why I canceled a lot of those social media pages, it starts to become a distraction. You start to, feed into it. Now, it's a good thing because there are some sincere, good people that contact you on there, but you get a lot of nutheads, and then it also interferes with my personal shit. So I kind of keep my communication as far as the knowledge and the information and the classes kind of strictly to on YouTube. Again, I do have a Facebook page, but that's private. That's only if I get a request, I give that to certain people because I don't really mix my personal life with a lot of the stuff that I do here. My personal Facebook page is just to communicate with family and friends that I've known for the years. I know a couple of you guys on here that I've known for a while are on my Facebook. But I just try to keep that stuff separate because it's gotten out of control in the past. The last thing, I had to blast into some dude who used to be on this path. I think I mentioned this a while back when I had my Facebook page, and he claims he used to be on the left-hand path, never really identified how and what and how long. He used to practice all this dark magic, this and that. And he went and took a tour of the Holy Land, and he claimed he had some epiphany, some crazy shit where he found Jesus and realized that what he was doing was wrong. That shit sounds all a bunch of spooky bullshit to me. And I had dug in his ass and simply told him, it sounds like you were on the path and encountered something you feared, and you found an out. You found an excuse. And people will do that shit on this path. When they start to do the real internal work and bring a lot of shit to the surface that they need to address, they kind of start to run from it. And then fear kicks in. So I had asked the dude, what were you prior to that, to so-called being on the left-hand path and practicing dark magic? Well, he was a Christian. Well, I find it very funny that you run back into Christianity hard. So you were struggling with that from day one. You just didn't know it. You understand what I'm saying? That was always there. He never would really address that when I was talking to him, but that was always there because it's tough when you come, and he came from what he did tell me, came from a strict religious Christian environment, not just a regular Christian environment. He was in that, good old strict, sanctified Christian environment. He never really fully got past it. And I could tell just by talking to him, he was in denial about it. But long story short, I ain't got time to deal with shit like that. So if I do kind of know you or get to know you, you can contact me either through Facebook or the email on here. I'm very selective with that. I don't like to keep too much shit open because it attracts a bunch of nutheads sometimes and crazy people. And I don't really fuck with that. I'm too old for that shit right now. I got too much shit to do. But anyway, let's go back. All right. So Gilberto says he has evolved since I have evolved since and now consider myself to follow LaVeyan Satanists. Okay, because I felt that's what my feelings are in line with. That's cool. Since following you, I've begun to look at Luciferianism as the path. All right, this is good. I think you typed something. Path I want to look into. I'm going to go back to perfection. I see your question. What books would be the best place to start? Cage, Alter Ego. I think it's Nicholas, not Nicholas. I'm thinking of the fucking actor. Cage. The book is called Alter Ego. Then the book I went over a few weeks back, The Enlightened Luciferian. I can't remember the name of the author, but you can email me. I could send you a couple of books on Luciferianism. Now, Luciferianism, I'm glad you bring that up, Brother Gilberto. Luciferianism, all right? I use that. If in a nutshell, you said, what is your approach to spirituality? And I've mentioned this in the past when I've talked about Luciferianism. Luciferianism to me is the mental approach people should take on this path. Why I'm saying that? I'm not saying that you need to officially anybody in any path that you study on this, because remember, as I said last week, and I've talked about it in videos in the past, you must stay diverse on this path. You shouldn't label yourself anything. I've talked about that numerous times over the years. You are all those things, and all those things are you. When you feel the need, again, as I said last week, to lay claim to something exclusively, there's some type of insecurity within yourself that you're not addressing. Because if you just say you're, I'm just vampiric, right? And that's why I said last week, since we stayed on the vampirism stuff for several weeks, that don't mean I'm exclusive to it. That just means we were covering subject matter. Because if I say I'm exclusive to vampirism or working with the dead or whatever it might be, then I'm not on the path to self-mastery. I'm on the path to mastering only that specific spiritual system. There's a difference in that. So I want to say that first before what I'm getting ready to say about Luciferianism. You shouldn't lay exclusivity to any one particular thing. Then you're not a master of anything. You're just a master of that one particular thing. And you should master all of these paths and incorporate them where you see fit and how you see fit to be working with them. So for an example, Brother Gilberto, if right now your connection is with LaVeyan is Satanism, and I still utilize a lot of the principles from the Satanic Bible, and I would recommend people, if you have or have not gotten the revision of it by Michael Aquino, some traditional Satanists are a little pissed off about it because he's removing the spookism from it and coming from using the ancient Egyptian philosophy as Set as the Prince of Darkness, which I connect with a little bit more because the only issues in the past I might have had with LaVeyan Satanism, some of it could come off as being a little religious, but and saying that, when you go through, for an example, his work, the Satanic Bible, or the companion to the Satanic Bible, the Satanic Rituals, and I've always thrown out there's a great ritual in there dealing with the 9 angles. And the 9 angles in the companion to the Satanic Bible is a great work, and I suggest everybody utilize on themselves and adjust it as you see fit. So even though, like you're saying, you're connecting with LaVeyan Satanism, I would always suggest that you adjust the work as you see fit. You don't have to put it into practice exactly as it's written, word verbatim. But the 9 angles deals with many of the different transitions. And if you don't have that, Brother Gilberto, I would suggest you might. I'm sure if you have the Satanic Bible, you probably have that. I would start looking at a lot of the rituals in the companion, and if you're connected and your energy is locked in and your frequency is connected to that work, see what you can get out of it right now at the present moment. The 9 angles, again, is a great working because it deals with all the different transitions and changes we go through on this path. It deals with the challenges, especially when you get to the 6th angle, which we did a specific working on that here and in an order that I belong to. Now, some people have asked me and emailed me, and I don't talk about it openly, but I just throw, am I in the Temple of Set? Yes, I am. I'm an adept in the Temple of Set. I don't really get into it openly because, unfortunately, I've had people try to apply and use me as a reference. If I don't know you, I do not suggest that you do that. It's not for everybody. That's the reason why I don't talk about it. Not saying that anybody watching this video is not equipped to apply to the Temple of Set. It's extreme work. It's a commitment. It's something I've been committed to for the last several years. But as I said before in the past, I had an incident where somebody that knew me from here applied and used me as a reference. I didn't really appreciate that because I didn't really know that person. I'm not going to vouch for anybody I do not know because that goes against my credibility. So that's why you don't hear me talk about it openly. It's not that it's some big secret, because it's not. It's not that it's not open for anybody to apply to. I've suggested many books here that were written by Don Webb. A lot of the books I suggest here are written by people that are members of the Temple of Set. So it's not that it's a secret. I'm open with it. But that's the work I take serious. And I'm be honest with you. I'm not saying this to scare people. That is not for everybody. If you are looking in that path, because that's really where my passion and commitment lies for personal work. If you understand what the Temple of Set is about, you really have to understand how it functions. It's going to bring you to that next level. I'm going to be straight up with you. But I've seen people drop like flies because the process one has to go through to get in takes about a year. because you go through some stuff that I believe you need to go through. It's not a club. They're not looking for quantity. They're looking for quality. And a lot of those concepts that I apply in my work externally and openly with people is highly influenced from my work there. That's one thing I've learned is we look for quality, not quantity. And that's very important. So I just want to throw that out there without staying on that too long. I know some of you guys have emailed me asking me that, and I just give a brief response. Not that it's a secret. I'm not trying to hide it. Yes, I am an adept in the tempo set. I've been in the tempo set for several years now. That's just what it is. But I don't talk about it openly, and I do not suggest anybody use me as a reference. If I do not know you, I will not vouch for you. So I want to make that clear. But anyway, Luciferianism, not to get off track, not to get sidebarred. Luciferianism, all right? In reference to Brother Gilberto. Then I'm going to go back up. I know I saw a couple other questions prior to that. The mindset. If you use that approach, it's always going to keep you open because a Luciferian doesn't conform to anything, right? If you understand the basic principles of Luciferianism that we've gone over in the past. And we also respect how other people approach it. Just because somebody might be on this path approaching it a certain way, maybe they're working with deities externally, which I don't agree with that. But if that's your choice, where you externalize, I'm not saying you, Gilbert, I'm just using the concept because this has come up in the past. A Luciferian mindset, as a Luciferian, from a Luciferian perspective, you understand that that's that individual's right to practice how they see fit on this path, whatever works for them. It's also your right to respectfully disagree. So if somebody's on this path doing a certain practice that I don't agree with, I will express that respectively, but it don't mean that person can't continue to practice how they see fit. So if you always use the Luciferian mindset, and I think if you email me, I'll get you the exact authors of those books because I don't have them handy with me right now. I would read it in regards to understanding how one should function and think. And now there's this big debate too. Are Luciferians Satanists, right? Is there a connection? And again, I said this before in the past. Yes and no. Not if you ask me from the aspect of how I approach the spiritual practices of Luciferianism, I don't connect it with one would know as modern day Satanism because I don't look at Satan or the adversary or Lucifer as some external deity. Some Satanists do. So you got to understand Luciferianism. And in the first book that I went over, and I think it was The Enlightened Luciferian, the author made it clear, don't just study one specific aspect of Luciferianism because Luciferianism is so diverse. I also gave people that website to go on. It's a self-initiation website. I know some of you actually went on there, did the ritual, adjusted it to your way. That's a good website. That's, gives you general information on how to initiate yourself into the Luciferian aspect or energies, if that's your choice, how to approach Lucifer. Now, how I work with Lucifer, I want to make this clear. I look at Lucifer as an energy that resides within me. So we just did a ritual, for an example. For those that were there, I know Sister Maya was there, Sister Mandy was there. Some of the people that are in the chat room right now were at that ritual. We did a ritual last month, end of October, where it dealt with not initiating ourselves, but activating the Luciferic energy within ourselves by way of our chakras, right? There was an invocation for each chakra. And we dealt with the masculine and feminine principles. So we were dealing with different energies in the rituals. Those were at the ritual. There was a part that the females did only. There was a part that the men did only. And then there was a part we did together. We did mantras where we activated the Lucifer energy. And again, as I say, I know there's some people in the room who verify what I'm saying because they were there. And we did certain mantras that activated that Lucifer energy within and what Lucifer represents, right? Right? Lucifer represents that, intellect that resides within, that higher knowledge or aspect of ourselves that we're trying to obtain. Now, you could even correlate some of this concept to demonic integration, right? Because dealing with your personal daemon is activating the higher self. So I look at the Luciferian energy as that. Now, this past Friday, it wasn't a public ritual. We did something this past Friday night, kind of connecting with that. And that was a temple function. That was something different. But that's how I approach it. I look at all of us have the Lucifer energy in us. Now, there was a concept from one of the books, I can't remember offhand because I don't have it in front of me. There was a concept from one of the books where it said the story of Lucifer or Iblis, as mentioned in the Quran, being kicked out of the quote unquote heavens was actually when we woke up. That represents our inner awakening. Because that when Iblis woke up or Lucifer woke up and said, "Nah, I'm not bowing down to shit. I have that ability." People look at that from a religious perspective as, because Iblis in Arabic means the rebellious one. It means he rebelled against the main order of things, right? The name Michael or Mikael means who dares to be like El. So then you have the archetype character of the angel Michael, who rose up and that was his response, who dares to be like El God. Now, when you take these characters and other stories, you can take it into the Sumerian. That was the story of Murdoch and Zuen. There's a significance of this and what it represents and how you should apply this to your personal work. That represents the lower self waking up, which is really the higher self, and going against the weaker self. So when Iblis or Lucifer fell from grace and he was cast down from the heavens and came to here, it showed that was the story of your inner awakening. This is what this really represents. It's symbolic because now when you, and this is why you should understand, and to your question, Gilberto, this is why you should study some of the information or the stories that's encoded in Luciferianism, because now when you get into when you read in your Bible and your Quran when Lucifer got here, go back and read the stories, the story in the garden, all these stories, who actually was really telling the truth and who was actually lying in those stories. If you really read them now with a clear and open mind, you start to see that Iblis, Lucifer, the devil, whatever name you want to give him, was telling the truth from beginning to end, right? Who was the one that was lying in those stories? The so-called God of the Bible. He was saying, if you eat from that tree in the middle of the garden, you're going to die. Did they die? No. Lucifer told them, if you eat from that, you're going to become awake like a god, like one of them, meaning the Elohim, if we're going to use the Hebrew. He was telling the truth, right? All these things were twisted around to keep that servitude mentality and to keep us loyal to this servitude mindset of serving this mythological spook god that sits in the sky somewhere and give our allegiance and loyalty to it. Well, Luciferianism goes against all those principles. It teaches you that you are the God. You are in control. You decide, and you are the ruler and governor of your spirituality, not somebody else. So activating that Lucifer energy within and what it represents is that godlike or goddess-like quality that resides within you. Now, you also can, again, they use the term son of the morning star, right? They use it, the star rising in Venus, right? These are different terms you see. It talks about the illumination of light. And again, as I mentioned before, that illumination or light, or Lucifer, which means light bearer, is that intellect, right? In their holy books, it also says in the Gospel of John, first chapter, the light shineth in the darkness, and the darkness comprehendeth it not, right? They'll tell you that that's Jesus. That's not what it's talking about. If you go back and I told y'all before, get a Ryrie Blue Study Bible. You don't need to be a Hebrew linguistic. Understand basic Hebrew principles where you can look up word verbatim each book, word by word. And where they fuck with you and throw you off is because they know most people don't even have a basic understanding of any Semitic languages. So it's easy for them to throw shit at you, give you their definition, their meaning, and most people just run with it on face value because they don't even take the time to do the research. They think because some dude is wearing a holy collar or got some title reverend or doctor or pastor in front of their name, they think that that qualifies them as a scholar and an authentic, representative on the subject. And it doesn't. It just shows they've been programmed with what they've been programmed to teach. It's your job to do the research and study. But anyway, not to stay on that too long, I would suggest, look at Luciferianism because you can apply the principles of Luciferianism in any aspect of your work. All right. So let me back up. I know there was something up here. Perfection 933. Are you guys still doing the I haven't seen any since you guys restarted. No, we haven't. And it's it's hard for me to commit to that. I thought we would try to get that going again on Thursday. I can't commit to it. So no, We haven't done anything but that one show, maybe possibly down the road. It's just as tough with things that I got going on now. I'm kind of going in a whole different direction and stuff that I'm doing. So it's just hard to commit to that with the YouTube channel and a lot of stuff I'm doing on the side. I don't really know. Sometimes I'm free on Thursday, sometimes I'm not. And it's hard to really squeeze that in or change it to another night. So no, not currently. I'm kind of going in a different direction. Maybe down the road, not sure. All right, Mama Work Day types in. Speaking of work, we're officially fully operating in Philadelphia. Congratulations, Mama Work Day. That's good. And I know, for an example, not to put nobody's business out there, but like I say, when Sister Mandy, Mama Muerte was here, and I know she's gotten back and done some work, and not because things just magically poof and happen out of the blue. No, they happen because you put the effort and the energy in, and things start to happen when you start to do work. And that's why this video is titled, You Must Do the Work First Before You Get the Rewards. It's that simple. You're not going to get no rewards by just, all right, I'm all fucked up. My life is jacked up. I'm messed up internally and externally, but I'm going to go ahead and do this money magic ritual. And, once I do it, even though I'm fucked up and I ain't addressed my bullshit, I'm just going to have money that's going to start pouring in. No. That's not how it works. Okay? Anybody that understands the basics of this path, even when I work, for an example, and those that have worked with me as clients, and I know some of you is in the room, that's not how I deal with you. And I show you, we have a discussion. If the spirits come through, whether it's your ancestral spirits, and some of you all have been in them readings, individuals come through by name, deities come through by name, you're given the information, but you're left with the instructions on how you need to do the work. That's the difference. And I always simply tell people, and again, I don't say this no disrespect. Personally, I couldn't give a fuck if you do the work or not, because that's not going to affect or change, bottom line, what I need to do. Take this hat off, getting a little hot. It's not going to change, bottom line, what I need to do, in the sense that life goes on, work goes on. When you're on this path, you take that approach. You don't take that. You're empathetic with people, but you don't feed them pity and sympathy. So those that have worked with me know, I'll tell you right when we're done, look, here's what you should do. And I always leave the door open. Feel free to ad lib, change, adjust, because I've known many people that I've worked with over the years. They've done work, and as they start to get into the work, they get an inclination or intuition to do something and change it. By all means, do that if that's the vibe you get, because that's what you're supposed to do. But I tell people, if you don't do the work and you don't carry out the things you need to do to get shit right, then it's pointless. And that's why I say it don't matter to me if you do or you don't. But you're not going to go do money magic ritual when you got personal issues. You might have, drama with family members or your spouse or significant other. That's going to distract and take away from the energy. What that does is it diffuses your intent. Your intent cannot be as focused and strong because, as Brother Gilberto said earlier, previously when he had asked the question he had asked earlier, he made it clear and he said, at that time, life can become a distraction, and life can become a distraction, okay? Life can become a serious distraction because it can take from your time, your focus, and your concentration. So you always should be doing inner reflection, contemplating inner work, and understanding what's going on in your life now. Every day shit is changing around you, constantly, right? If you understand the 7 hermetic principles of Tahuti, right? And you understand the doctrine of vibration, you understand nothing ever rests. Right? Things are constantly moving. That's also your connection spiritually when you're dealing with frequencies and vibrations. When you're around people every day, remember, you're affected by their vibration and frequency. Now, that could be good or bad depending on how it affects and relates to you. When you're at work, when you're dealing with business, when you're dealing with clients, remember, there's always that inner reaction of vampirism going on because one is always taking and one is giving. Sometimes you're giving and sometimes you're taking. This is why you can feel drained at the end of the day, because of the interreaction of the different energies that you've exchanged throughout the day. Shit, you can get drained by just going into a shopping mall and being around so many. I know it happens to me all the time. I mean, and sometimes you're tapping into energy like, damn, these motherfuckers are draining me because it's not in sequence with what you're vibing with. And then sometimes it takes something real simple to just recharge yourself. A basic meditation, right? Doing a simple working, and just to get you right back on track. But sometimes it's as simple as just, I've done this where I've sat down right there in the mall and done what we call cleansing breaths, right? Yeah, I can't remember his name, Yakran Yogi. I mentioned it, the Breath book. You can get it's on Scribe. You can get it on Amazon. They've come out with many different translations of it. I can never say his name right. Duma, I think you might know. I see you typing in some books. Again, I have no books with me, so I mean, I don't feel like walking to the other room and getting that shit right now. So I'll be honest with you. I would recommend you get that book, Breath, by that Hindu guru, because there's so many good breathing exercises in there that you should do on a daily basis. And you can do them in a situation like that. Sometimes it's as easy as just doing a few cleansing breaths to remove that stale or negative energy that you've absorbed. It's that simple. And you could do that anywhere. You could do that driving in your car. You could do that sitting down in a public place, and nobody would have a clue what the fuck you're doing. It's little things like that. All those things affect you. But I see Brother Duma typed in the books. I couldn't get the names. So there you go. Luciferianism, Alter Ego. I used these books a few weeks back by Richard K. Page. I don't know why I had Cage. I'm thinking of fucking, so my head is at today. And The Enlightened Luciferian by Simon Mark Alvarez. There's two parts to that. The Enlightened Luciferian. There's two parts to that. I never utilized the second part of it. Now, the difference I would tell you from Simon Mark Alvarez's book, now he's openly admits he's bisexual, which I don't, that's his choice. That's not my thing, but that's his choice. He attacks it more from an antithesis of going against monotheism. And so and Richard K. Page, I think, deals with it more on a higher spiritual level. But Simon Mark Alvarez, obviously, he's clear in his book. When you read his work, he grew up in a religious household. So he one of the issues that he's clear with dealing with. So some of the information in the book can be redundant in the sense, not in a bad way. He does repeat himself a lot in the book, and that's okay. But he makes it clear his biggest blockage and his biggest traumatic experience in life was getting past that religious shit. So I think he's very good at, in the book, he goes through the different texts of the Bible. He goes in depth in correlating it and really the Luciferian understanding of it, the mental approach. I would again, if you're reading that, that's kind of the perspective he's coming from. Where Richard K. Page is coming from more of a higher mental, spiritual aspect of it. And that's why I say you should get all different books on Luciferianism. I just, a few weeks back, suggested those books because I think they're very simple books to connect with. They're not complicated. If somebody, said to me, what's a good book to start understanding Luciferianism? Even Michael W. Ford's book, Phosphorus, he deals with Luciferianism. Now, he is in there promoting the Church of Lucifer. It's not mandatory to join that. I went over that in his book when I was going through it. I would start with those books because I think they're very easy to connect with. I think an individual, if they're trying to learn about Luciferianism, and again, it removes the spooky shit. I just want to make that clear. That's why I suggested it, because to the ignorant person that doesn't understand, they hear Luciferianism. If you're religious, you start Satan, the devil, anti-Christian. Well, if you have a Christian or a religious mindset, then it's not going to connect with you. You understand you're going to come out spooked out, feared and afraid because you've been indoctrinated with that fear from day one. And if you're not willing to openly explore, then it's not for you. Then go to some shit that makes you feel comfortable. That's how that works. All right. So what else we got? Okay. Oni typed in, when you continue to ignore experiences that keep coming back, you have to understand Spirit is bringing these experiences back so you can become wise and mature for them. We all got to grow up. Now, when you're working with quote unquote spirits, demons, even activating archetypes within, they become more persistent when you ignore quote unquote the message or the communication. More so when it's an ancestral spirit. So let me address that real quick. In some traditions, we know these as Igun. You could call them the spirits of the dead. In the voodoo tradition, we know them as the Gede, the gatekeepers. Baron Samdi, Baron LaCroix, Papa Legba, Kafu. We also know them in necromancy as the dark spirits, spirits of the dead, etc. Whatever spiritual system you're coming from, that is one aspect of this path. I've always been a strong supporter of everybody being grounded in ancestral work. I don't care what spiritual system you use. You can use the Igun aspect of Ifa. You can use the ancestral aspect of Udon. They're very similar in nature, not much different. You can use the Kendoki if you want to use African witchcraft and spirituality. You can use modern day necromancy. It doesn't matter. That is all honoring the dead. And I say honor because I want to make this clear. We don't worship our ancestors the way a religious person would worship their illusionary God. We honor and revere our spiritual ancestors. Now, I would also make bloodline and spiritual. A lot of times, where the disconnect I find comes in, it's very easy when you're on this path to connect with your bloodline ancestors. Obviously, the basic principle of setting up an altar for them, as I've mentioned before, you should have the basic elements on that altar. You should have earth, wind, air, fire, water. You should get some earth. For an example, I was fortunate enough to get some sand from the pyramids in Egypt. That's my earth I have on my ancestral altar. If not, you can get beach sand. You can get dirt from a park, dirt from your backyard. It don't matter as long as it's some earth. You want to always have fresh water on that altar. The candle representing the fire and incense represents that smoke. It's always important to utilize incense in your ritualistic work, the right kinds of incense. Very important to know what energy and frequency you're working with and how to utilize that, because there are certain incense or certain resins you shouldn't use in certain situations. That's a whole nother story for a whole nother time. But as long as you have those 4 operating elements on your altar, in addition to pictures of deceased ancestors, if you don't have pictures, I've always told people you can get parchment paper and write names down. If you don't have pictures, that suffices. And you should at least one time, minimum, this is my suggestion. Now, you don't have to do it. Once a week, you should specifically honor and revere your bloodline ancestors and your spiritual ancestors, those you are aware of and not aware of. Now, sometimes when we're not doing the internal work, we don't connect with our spiritual ancestral guides. Some of us have spirits that are connected to us, again, from past lives. They could be African Congo spirits. I can only speak for myself. I have a gladiator warrior spirit that I've opened myself up to and found. Congo spirit, spirit of a monk. I've mentioned this before in the past. It's that work with ancestral spirit guides that we tend not to connect with. I'm only bringing that up because this is part of the connection to to Oni's question that she brought up. When you get communication from some of them ancestral spirit guides, they can become very persistent when you do not explore it fully and thoroughly. How do you become aware to these spirit guides? Now, we've also done work down here, and I don't think Sister Sonia's here now. We do something they call in these practices Igun misas or gatherings, or what they call Igun masses. And there's rituals you can do in a setting individually and collectively where you bring the spirit down. And at these gatherings and in your personal work and these collective gatherings is where you become aware of these spirits. For an example, I know Sister Mandy's in here right now. For an example, and I was made aware of this when at the ritual we did, which had an Igun aspect of it, of a gypsy spirit that she had came through in that particular ritual. I'm using that just as an example, not to get into depth, but this is where the communication comes through the ritualistic work, individually, collectively, and through that inner, when you're really going within, whether again it's contemplative or reflective meditation or full-blown meditation where you're locked in. All of this work, that's why I said this ties into, again, why I title the video. It's the work first, then the rewards. All right? Let's see what else we got here. else we got here? Yeah, there's the other book I was talking about earlier. Duma typed it in the breath by Yogi. I can never get this dude's name. Rama Charaka, aka William Walter Atkinson. Yes, a really good book. That would be a book I would suggest to people because, first of all, when understanding meditation. Now, by the way, not to get too much into that. By the way, those that are familiar with Dr. York, aka Dr. Pork, that's where he actually word verbatim, word for word, plagiarized and copied that book into a book that he put out in one of his bootleg spiritual orders he started called the Ancient Egyptian Order. He has a book called The Breath. Fucker didn't even really change the title. And if you actually have a copy of that book, take also Ram Charaka's book, put it side by side, and he didn't really change anything. He just changed a couple, like he would put, instead of where William Atkinson was speaking, he would put as if he was speaking. Long story short, because I've gotten that email from some spooky ass Nuwapians who say that Dr. York wrote that book. No, he didn't. If you go look at the original copyright in that book, that was a long time ago. And if I'm not mistaken, it was late 1800s, early 1900s. And Pork pretty much word verbatim copied it word by word. Didn't even change shit in it. So if anybody that's going to come with that argument, save it. It's a waste of fucking time because I'll rip that shit apart, smash it and shit on it, and wipe my ass with it and then flush it down the toilet bowl because I don't even want to hear that nonsense. That's a good book, though. And I couldn't think of his name, and I know Duma is on top of his shit because he got it right in front of him. Breathing and concentration is first and foremost something you should consistently practice. And in the book, it's going to tell you, it helps you to understand before one can really obtain proper locked in, quote unquote, meditation, you must have your breathing and concentration mapped out. Yeah, like Duma typed in. I was stunned when I first read it, totally blown. True indeed. Now, some of us back in the day, such as Duma and myself, we had a connection to Dr. York's group for years until we left it to find out that the dude was a straight fraud and basically plagiarized 80% of the shit he wrote. Those that know. I don't waste my time on that nonsense no more because, like I say, I still have some friends, quote unquote, that are part of that organization. They know my stance. I will always be honest and open and speak out against it. I don't condone. I don't give a fuck what anybody says. I know because I worked on that man's case. And when I started uncovering the horrific shit he did to those children, you don't have to accept it or not. I fucking know. And that's all I need to know. And as I said before in the past, I ain't on no crusade. You don't see me going around trying to tell. If somebody asks, I'll tell them. I ain't telling people to believe and accept what I know about the man. I'm telling you to do the research on your own. But I find 90% of the people that come with information on his legal situation and they know nothing about it. The man is fucking guilty. I don't support anybody that's a pedophile, that harms innocent children, or that has the intent of carrying out sexual acts with children. I will fuck your ass up if you're in my presence. I have no tolerance for that. No tolerance, because yes, part of that wrath, fury, and anger comes from because I have motherfucking children. You damn straight. Let's keep it real. Okay? If anybody laid their hands on my fucking children, have mercy on yourself. Because I can tell you this. I ain't calling the police to handle it. You understand what I'm saying? Where I come from, we handle shit like that on our own. And it's a done deal. Okay? We ain't going to the authorities to handle shit like that. And we've dealt with shit like that in the past in my neighborhood. You understand? People tend to just disappear or shit just goes away. Okay? There's no tolerance for that. And people have asked me in the past, why did I leave this and that? And why did you stay in this and that? Well, I was just like, at a time when before I uncovered this, just like anybody else, was loyal. Like a lot of these people that have cognitive dissonance now that are in the organization, They're in denial because it's a trauma thing. When you put your soul, faith, and trust in something and it gets snatched from you, you usually go into cognitive dissonance. You're in denial because that's your foundation, that's your rock. And it's hard for you to face the reality that it was a fucking fraud and that it was all bullshit. You don't think I had to go through that? But reality kicks in quick like a motherfucker. You understand? And my youngest son was born in that community. You understand? We lived there. He was born internally in the early 90s when I was living in there. Okay. I've talked about it briefly here and there. Some of y'all know I don't like to get in depth with it, but I'm just bringing it up because it comes up now. So I know you ain't shit you can tell me. I fucking know. Ain't nothing you can tell me about pork. And most of these motherfuckers that claim, quote unquote, to be Nuwaubians today, they're newbies. They came in after this Negro got incarcerated and arrested. They know nothing about it. They came in after 2002, majority of them. A lot of the old heads have disappeared. There's a few still of them around. A lot of people have woken the fuck up and grown the fuck up. All right. The Negro ain't coming out of jail. Get it out of your mind. Negro's going to die in that motherfucker. That's just the reality. The Negro's guilty and he's right where he should be. And I think he got off on a light sentence. The motherfucker really should have been put up against the wall and had his dick blown the fuck off and castrated and shot till he couldn't stand no more. That's how you deal with motherfuckers like that. When you're touching innocent babies and children, I'm speaking for myself. Nobody got to agree with what the fuck I'm saying. That's my stance on it. I take a firm stance on that shit. I don't give a fuck if you're a pedophile. You got zero tolerance in my book. Zero fucking tolerance. I ain't got no tolerance for that. But anyway, not to stay on that too long. Let's move to other shit. All right, I'm going to keep building. If you guys got questions, go ahead and type them in. I think I got most of them up until this point. Anyway, I'll check back in a minute. But yeah, my whole point would be set for an example. Okay. And I know I was talking about that earlier and I stopped. I want to go back to that real quick. As a concept, right? We'll make this clear. Now, that's my foundation. I use that concept as my central approach. Let me give you an example. And I want to say this to make this clear. No, we don't approach or look at Set as an external deity to worship. I went over that last week because some people get confused with archetypes. They still get confused on what that is, how to work with it, and what it represents. You're constantly working with archetypes. Remember, go back to what I was talking about last week. Archetype doesn't just represent the concept of a deity, right? Archetype can be a format of something. It could be a spiritual system, a philosophy, a concept, right? All of those things, quote unquote, fall under the character of archetypes. I use the gift of Set, the black flame of Set, because of what that represents, right? I utilize that because you're going to find out that's the core foundation. When we talk about, for an example, using the concept as the Prince of Darkness, I actually refer to him as the King of Darkness. And I only say him because of what it refers to. It manifests physically as an archetype in the male gender. I utilize that concept because whether it just debunks the mythological aspect or the religious aspect of what we know as modern day Satanism. Because unfortunately, some people that are on the left-hand path that practice left-hand path, and to me it's not, or modern day Satanism, look at the character or the archetype of Satan or the devil as literally a physical being. That's what they look at it as. That's not what we look at it as on the left-hand path, right? Set, for an example, would be the foundation that holds all that together. Everything emits from that concept as what those would say the Prince of Darkness, right? We look at the Prince of Darkness as that facilitator, that gift of Set, that black flame of Set represents all those things that embody. For an example, if you're working with vampirism, it all comes from the black flame. If you're working with necromancy, if you're working with ancestral worship, if you're working with Babylonian magic, it doesn't matter. It all emits from what we call the black flame, right? And other conscious circles, they'll sit there and they'll call it they'll call it being connected to the cosmic consciousness of all. You'll hear that in alchemy circles. I'm trying to give you some of the on surface terminology that'll be used, but how we connect with it, we look at it as no limitations, no boundaries. We look at it as going into the dark abyss of your subconscious mind, unlocking all that exists within, right? That's quote unquote making order out of the chaos, because that can be a chaotic experience, right? That could be a chaotic experience for a multitude of reasons, because it starts to bring to the surface things that you have, again, that you have not been addressing. All right. Let me scroll up, make sure I didn't miss nothing here. All right. All right. So again, I'm just going back up to see if I didn't miss anybody. So again, if you have some questions, anything that you want to talk about, again, it don't necessarily have to be in relation to exactly what we're talking about here, because again, as I said, I'm just going with a more, I ain't going to be really using books no more. I'm just going to kind of be flowing so we could dialogue, so we can see what's on people's minds. I mean, what work have some of you guys been doing? You know, what areas of interest have you been working with? Where are your struggles? You know, where are your areas of growth? You know, these are things we need to dialogue about and connect with, because not only in those dialogues, not does it just help the individual, it could resonate with somebody, you know, you understand what I'm saying, listening. But we must be consistent at our work. I can't stress that enough. You must be consistent. Now, again, I want to make this clear. I'm not saying you got to be religious fanatic with it, because as I said in the beginning of the video, you do need to take sometimes just some downtime for yourself. And I know I'm going to be doing that this weekend. I did it maybe a little too much in the beginning of the week, but, you know, got some stuff planned for the week. Family, friends. Sometimes you got to kick back and just, you know, as they say, do you. Sometimes you need that. But sometimes you also got to catch yourself when you're not doing what you need to be doing. And unfortunately, that happens a lot. We don't catch it. All right. Let me just see. I don't think I missed anything up top. All right. If I didn't greet you personally, peace, peace, peace. All right. I think I answered that already. All right, Sister Maya, my Vade types, and I'm working, staying focused, and practicing my meditation. All right. And again, I mentioned earlier, a good practice, and I've mentioned this before, something I'm going to throw out there again real quick. I've mentioned this before, something that's real good to do on a regular basis, okay? Real good to do on a regular basis. You should... Sorry, I was looking at it. I'll get to that question in a second. You should daily, whether it's a couple minutes, some people they get a little more extreme with it. Again, I can only throw out there what I do regularly. Now, not saying that you have to do it the way I do it. I can only share what I do regularly. Because remember, this path being so vast and open, you can do whatever you feel need be. Because my schedule, for an example, I'm up early pretty much every day. I'm not really a late morning sleeper. Even when I'm off, I usually don't sleep past 8, maybe 9 o'clock the latest. That's just me. Take this off. I usually start my day with a couple minutes meditation in my chamber, followed by some brief invocations to different systems I work with. And those I know briefly in the past, showing my altar, my chamber room. And that whole process might take 5 minutes, 5 to 7 minutes daily. And I'm even talking about days before I walk out the door and head out and handle my business. Same thing in the evening time. You will be surprised how effective just a couple of minutes in the morning. You should never start or end your day with some type of acknowledgement to your ancestors, to the spirits, to whatever system you're working with. Once you start incorporating those little things and they become consistent good habits, then things start to open up. And I'm telling you, this is a reality. You only will understand this if you do it regularly. If you only, for an example, go into your chamber whenever there's something wrong, right? And unfortunately, some people only do practice magic or do workings when they need something or there's something wrong, right? And that's not really the only time you should do it. If you're in there consistently sharpening your skills and connecting to that energy on a regular basis, you will find that, quote unquote, and I'm using metaphors, doors start to open for you. Opportunities start to come your way. Now, it doesn't mean shit just puff the magic dragon and it just fucking happens. No, it means the opportunities are there. You still have to put the energy forth, do the work, and kick down the doors and make those opportunities blossom into something. But what I'm saying is, once you start developing positive, consistent habits like that, you're just going to see shit just starts to happen. Sometimes it becomes effortless, creating the illusion that shit just randomly is happening, but it's really not. Because when you're training the mind to think a certain way, when the mind is aligned on a certain frequency and you're tapped into a certain energy, say it's a specific system you're working with right now, well, you open the doors up to what that particular spiritual system can do for you in those areas of your life. That's why, and I see some of y'all typed in what you've been working with. I'm going to go through that. That's why I had brought that question up. But I would suggest on a daily basis, even days, now I always suggest this, never go into doing work forcing yourself. And this comes up a lot in discussions over the years. If you're beat, physically tired, and you had some ritual planned, never just go into a work or a ritual just for the sake of getting it done, because it becomes pointless. And I've learned that early from way back in the day. There's times where I was either tired or wasn't mentally engaged, and you're not going to get the same result and effect. So you always should be in the right state of mind. You should be energized. You should be prepared. That's why I said planning and prioritizing your time is important, because based on your schedule, regardless of how crazy or consistent it might be, you should be able to map out a specific time. Now, unfortunately, fortunately, I'm fortunate because I pretty much have a set, consistent schedule now. At this stage in my life, I always didn't. Like I said, in the past, I worked crazy retail jobs, worked wacky hours, long hours. Now I'm pretty much fortunate. I just work days, 4 days a week. I don't work evenings. I don't work weekends. So it's very easy for me at the moment to plan, my spiritual shit. Very easy for me now. But I say that because I worked hard in my life to get to this point now, because one of my challenges in relation to Brother Gilberto's question earlier was I realized that my life, as far as my work, was creating issues for that. So one of the things I went into back a few years back was I need to be in a career in a field where I can make the money I need to make, but also have the time I need to devote and dedicate to myself. So that didn't just come about by poof. I walked into that. Came from the company I was in. I had to start in a certain position in that company, but I had a plan from jump. I wasn't trying to stay there. I was trying to evolve away from that position and be more self-sufficient, self-independent, so I can have the time and energy I need to devote myself for the growth. That's how it works. So if you're in that situation, you may need to do work where you need doors to open to change your lifestyle, to change the shit, that you're doing. That's very important. So just basic shit like a brief meditation in the morning, honoring and reverence, working with whatever systems. I always honor the ancestors every morning before I step out the door. And then a very important thing I've mentioned in the past before, at the end of the day, same thing, a brief meditation, but also reflect. I always tell people, do this, practice this regularly. Reflect at the end of the day on your day. A brief reflection. Analyze what successes and failures you had through the day, so moving forward tomorrow and the next day what you need to focus and reflect on. I'm sure every day we can all look at our day and look and say, this was productive, this was unproductive, this was good, this didn't turn out the way I wanted it, and how can I move forward? When you're constantly, you heard me talk about the last couple of weeks, setting short-term goals. When you set those short-term goals, you will find out shit just starts to open up for you, because short-term goals lead to accomplishing greater goals. But I think what happens is we make the mistake of setting these unrealistic long-term goals that are too far out, and we get disappointed when they're not coming into fruition. So when we set those more realistic short-term goals it creates that momentum, confidence, and that consistency that starts leading us to success. Because remember, this path, that's why I'm on it. I can't speak for nobody else. This path is about improving yourself on all levels, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically, and financially, right? Spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically, financially. I call it the 5 P's of the left-hand path, the 5 principles, right? That's the goal. Spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically, and financially. You want to be at your all-time best in all those areas in your life. You always are striving to improve and become the best you can be in those areas. That's what this path is about. This path ain't about, I know some people here, left-hand path, Luciferianism, Lucifer, they think, Satan. That's not the shit that we're talking about here. I want to make that clear. I know it's hard for some people to grasp, not so much people on the path. I know it's hard for some people to grasp because they come from religious backgrounds and they think that that's all this represents. It don't. All right. But anyway, let's see what we got in here. I know some people typed in some further comments and questions. All right. All right. We got Wacky J typed in, is the lecture gathering on October 26th available on audio or video to purchase? No, I don't really film those, only because not for any, it just becomes, it's too long. Like for an example, we did an all day thing on the 26th. And for an example, I know Maeve was there, Sister Mandy was there, Sister Sonia, Brother Jack. It was like an 8-hour event. So that it would have been too long to film that. And it was more personal work. So this is just me, as I mentioned last week. This is what I do here openly, for people open. The reason why I don't really bother filming, I do quick clips or snippets here and there, because those that have come to those events, it's more of a personal gathering. It's not in, if you ever get, hopefully you get the chance to attend one, Wacky J, you'll see it's more personalized. We get together, we vibe, we sit down, we break bread, we have personal discussions. Those that have come understand what I'm talking about. So it's more of a personal family type of thing. It's not really something to really, in my opinion, to publicize, especially the rituals. The rituals are very impersonal because when you come to a working or a ritual, even though it's a group ritual, as I've said many times in the past, you have a personal and a collective experience. So afterwards, when we do the rituals, we all sit down in a group and we have an open discussion of like what people experienced. Again, some of it I have thought in the past about filming certain aspects of it. I have done in the past, but the reason why I really don't, because I myself want to be engaged and focused on the ritual. I don't really want to be distracted of having to carry equipment, a computer, and record, because I'm pretty much just as engaged and locked in with everybody else. And again, I say that those that have attended know what I'm talking about and can verify what I'm talking about. I'm actually there to enjoy myself, to actually dialogue and spend time with people, especially people that are coming from out of state. And we kick it and we have some fun and it's work. It's a combined of all that. So that's really the only reason why, not because of any, like it's secretive. I just think it's kind of personal and I like to keep that experience on that level, personal. Now, there are some events in the future, possibly some events and workshops that, we might, from some of the gatherings, film them and maybe post them or offering them for sale. But I just feel it's a personal experience. And hopefully you're able to come to one. You'll understand when you come to one. And again, I just not focused on, the little clips you see me shoot. I might just shoot that on my phone because I have my phone with me. But like, for an example, if we were shooting all day workshops, I would need the laptop camera for that. Because like I said, that was an 8-hour thing. We started at around 9:30 in the morning. And when we have the gatherings like that and the workshops, they focus, we have presenters and each one did about an hour, a little hour and some change apiece. And then we broke for lunch and then we came back and we finished with a few more presentations. It was long. And you're talking about 8-9 hours of video. But yeah, it's a possibility down the road, but that's kind of why you don't see that. All right. Only type then I've been working on my own maturity because I've been doing a lot of the same shit, thinking I'm going to get a different result. And now I recognize that to change is to mature. Okay. Yeah, and you got to be careful of that. If I'm understanding what you put in there, let me address this real quick. This is why, and again, if this comes to mind, if I'm off base, then maybe you tell me. You got to be careful you don't get caught doing the same shit all the time. And that's why I said last week, and I've said in the past, when you get caught in one methodology, one specific spiritual system, it creates a problem because it cuts off your creativity, it cuts off your connection. Because remember, this path being so vast and being so diverse, and what's unique about this, as I said in the past, than anything else you will encounter, you can practice anything you want and adjust it how you see fit. If you want to deal with the Egyptian concept of this, you can, and work with the archetypes. If you want to work with Ifa, Vodun, the Loa, the Gede, you can, and work it and adjust it to this path. If you want to work spiritual alchemy, more from a left-hand path perspective, you can use alchemy on this path. This is why I say if you always stay fresh and challenge yourself, and don't limit yourself, and don't give yourself titles, and don't lay exclusivity to anything, you kind of tend to evolve away from being put in that predicament, that situation, or getting that feeling. Or if you're performing the same rituals over and over, that could be a problem. Because sometimes you're performing rituals and you're not getting results because there could be other areas in your life you're not focusing on where you need to put the energy and attention to get results. For an example, I mentioned earlier, like some people are all jacked the fuck up, literally, and they want to go do some money magic shit. And the reason why they ain't getting a result is because that's not where they need the core work right now. They got emotional issues they ain't dealing with, personal problems they're not addressing, family issues, relationship issues. And that could be the cause of the root of why their money is jacked the fuck up. So until they address that, the money ain't never going to come right, because that's not what needs to be correct. The money can't come right because you're all jacked up in those areas. So I'm just using that as an example. I'm not saying that that's always the case. I'm just trying to throw some examples out there that you can connect with. Maturity is always, when we say maturity, we're not just talking about age. We're talking about growing in maturity mentally. One, having a clear mind, some will say open mind, whatever. When your mind is clear and free, right? And I've addressed this a few weeks back. I like to use clear and free because when open-minded means you're still kind of, to me, on the fence. Well, it's how you perceive it. So whether you want to say clear-minded or open-minded, that's fine. But my point is, when you have that mentality, you're always receptive to change, proper growth. When you don't have that mentality, say what can close that way of thinking up is by getting redundant in the shit that you do. I see this all the time. That's why being exclusive to one spiritual system does not work. Because in time, eventually, if you are connected to this path and this energy, you will outgrow it. If you're really connected to this energy, you're constantly seeking change, evolution, and growth. I know I am. So how I roll with it, for an example, and as I said before, are there going to be periods and moments where you feel more compelled to work with something sometimes more than others? Of course there is. But I make sure I never get to the point where I get comfortable and locked in. Sure, there's periods where I'm heavily on vampirism for a few weeks. Sure, there's periods where I go through strong periods where I'm working with the Voodoo Pantheon and the Loha and Papa Legba. And I'm constantly working with Papa Legba on a daily basis. But I've learned to incorporate them all in. Like, again, if you see the way I have my altar set up, I'll keep the Egyptian aspect that I work with when I'm working Egyptian left-hand path magic. I have that specific altar. I'll have something just only exclusively for the Holy Dead, Santa Muerte, just that by itself. I have something just for the Igun or the ancestors. I keep that energy by itself. I have something, dealing with the Loha, the Gede, the Orishi. I keep that all But I know how to acknowledge and work with them on a daily basis, but I know how to stay locked in on certain systems for a few weeks, a couple of days, a week at a time, because I know by doing my inner work, I know the energy is guiding me there, and it says you need to focus on this for right now. Then when I've gotten out of it what I needed to get out of it for that moment, my intuition will kick in. All right, you need to come off of that now and go on to this. Now it can get crazy because of the vastness of this path. But remember, what's one of the precepts? You must make order out of this chaos. See, it's easy just to be in, say, I'm strictly Kemetic, or I'm an initiate of Santeria and all I practice is Santeria. That's easy to do because it's more convenient for the mind. And it says it's easy. It's an easier way out. It's kind of, I ain't got to really do extreme work, because then you have to ask yourself the question, why do all these other things exist? They're there for a reason, because when I'm using the term, as I said in the beginning of the video, you are those things and all those things are you. I'm saying that to say all of this resides within you. All of this energy, all of this knowledge, this wisdom and this power is naturally there. The systems and the rituals and understanding it is just utilized to activate that. And that's why when I was saying earlier about Lucifer, for an example, and working with Luciferianism, the ritualistic work, like when I gave people that website for Luciferianism a month, whatever it was, a month or two ago, the self-initiation ritual, the reason why I had suggested that, and I also suggested it, you could utilize it and change it how you see fit, was it's centered on activating the Lucifer energy within. Now, I know when I first did it, I know it created and opened up a whole new awareness. It gave me a whole different perspective. I started to look at things differently. I started to perceive things differently. It also made me aware that I was focusing on some shit that wasn't really necessary, and vice versa. It also created the awareness that I wasn't putting my attention and energy on certain things that I should have. That's what ritual is supposed to do. That's what personal work is supposed to do, and that's what collective group work. Anytime we put together a group work that we will do down here on a monthly basis, it's geared for your personal growth, meaning it's geared for even when you leave here and you go back to wherever you live, it should still resonate and stay with you and spark you in other areas of your personal work. That's what a collective group rituals does. That's what our goal is. We don't just do some shit, as I said before, just to do it because, hey, let's just do this shit just to do it. No, there's always an intent and a reason why we're doing the work, and it's for growth and change. If you ain't doing work for growth and change for the better, then you're pretty much wasting your time. Because like I said, I could look back and reflect and say, all right, here we are in 2018. I can go to the beginning of the 2000 and say, look to see where I was in the year 2000 and reflect from 2000 to 2018. I'm just using that gauge because we're in the 2000s. I can actually sit back and confidently say there's been tremendous growth and change. Tremendous. Now, you should always use that as a gauge personally for yourself. If you've been on this path 1 year, 2 years, 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, 10 years, 20 years, if you can't look back from the point you started to the present day and actually say there's been, now it's going to vary the level of change depending on how long, but if you can't honestly say there's been some growth and change, then something is wrong. That should be a red flag that you're doing something wrong. You might want to adjust your approach. All right, it's that simple. All right, so let's see what else. All right, I'm glad y'all typed in a bunch of shit. Just give me a second. As you know, this stupid ass chat room shit skips. Hold on. I will find it. I know Oni was the last question. Okay, here we go. All right, I got it. Wacky J types, and I've been working on being more consistent in my spiritual work, writing, reflecting, beginning the day, getting focused. And I'm telling you, that's perfect because you will find it's the little tiny things that seem not as major or significant. They are so important. And I'm glad you're saying, man, and I hope when you're saying writing, maybe you keep a journal. And as I said, every adept on this path should keep their own personal, some call it a magical diary, a magical journal. You should always keep a journal just to look back and reflect on so you can chart your growth. That's something I've learned in all major occult and spiritual orders always suggest that. OTO, any of those orders, the Rosicrucian order, I know always suggests you keep a spiritual journal. It's always a good thing because I'll pick mine up every now and then because mine will go back to the early 1990s when I first started keeping a journal, probably 94, 95. And I go back and read shit in there that I was doing back then. And I say, wow, so much different than what the fuck I'm doing now. So now you have a documented, something in writing that you've charted your progress. So that's good. Reflecting, like I said, when I was talking about earlier, remember there are many different forms of what we call meditation. Meditation, yes, being locked into full-blown meditation is being aware that the physical eye isn't there, and which opens doorways to possibly travel in the astral realm. Yes, I understand that. I'm talking about the basic, as Wacky J typed in, reflecting is a form of meditation. Contemplating your day, or what we call contemplative meditation, is a form of meditation. If you utilize those things consistently on a regular basis, you will see, like I say, those little things lead to bigger and greater things. But consistency, here's that word again, consistent. It's not just in this. As I said before, if you're an athlete and you don't consistently practice your craft, if you're a basketball player, you ain't working on your jump shot, you ain't working on your defense, you ain't working on your perimeter game, you ain't working on your game in the paint, then you're not going to be good unless you're one of the few. Just like on this path, some people naturally linked in, some people don't have to put as much effort. Unless you're one of those gifted natural athletes, which they come far and in between, and you don't have to put in that work, it's not going to work for you. All right? But that's a good point. Stepwap types in, peace, brother. Can you give info on Olodumare? Yes. For those, I'm sure most people are familiar. Olodumare is what's known in Ifa / Santeria. Some will refer to him as Olorun, right? Olodumare would be the mouthpiece of God, or what some would call the most, I got to use terms because it is a little religious, the most high God, right? When you read the stories of the Ifa pantheon and the Ifa traditions of how the Orishi were created, it says that how Olodumare created the earth, sent down Obatala, scattered the soil. It shows the emergence of the other Orishas. It's mythology. It's conveying a story. It's their creation concept in the Ifa tradition. But Olodumare would be who the Babalawo also consult if you've ever gotten a reading or worked with the Babalawo when they're using the Ifa tray and they're using the Dilagoon. And Ifa is a complex system of 200 plus Odus. I believe 256. I could be wrong. I know it's 250 something. And there's a whole book dealing with the Odus of Olorun or Olodumare. It's basically the mouthpiece or how the creator speaks in that pantheon. And the different signs of Olodumare or Olorun represent different characteristics or aspects of working with the Orishi. Now, each Ifa or each Odu has a specific meaning. For an example, when a client is getting a consultation or a reading. And usually each Odu speaks by way of a certain Orishi, as far as giving offerings or certain work that needs to be done, etc. It can get kind of complex, but the simple breakdown, you'll see his colors are yellow and green. I actually, when I work with the 7 African powers, I don't have it on now, you'll see he is one of those 7 African powers. I work with the aspect of Olodumare in the concept of Voodoo or voodoo as the 7 African powers. Him being at the top, and obviously you got Papa Legba in there. You got Oshun, you got Yemaya or Madre de Agua in the Loa, and the others that come along with it, Ogun, or who some call Ogum with an N in Voodoo. So depending on what aspect, because Olodumare would be the Ifa aspect of it. Now, when you get into Voodoo or dealing with the Loa, that would be equivalent or very similar to what we call Dambala Widu. Now, some will also liken Dambala Widu to who they call Obatala because of Damballa we do, where it represents all white purity, cleanness. The offerings, one of his key offerings you give to Damballa we do, is a mound of white flour with a white egg on top of it. But you also have to look at in the Veve of Damballa we do, you have the serpent, which is very synonymous. The serpent, or the serpent in the rainbow, is also encoded and symbolized with Olodumare, the serpent, or the serpent with the tail on its mouth. In what they call candomblé in Brazil, that is the symbol they use heavily with, or who they call Olodumare, or Olorun, right? So you can synchronize that energy, and it might vary as far as breakdown and meaning depending on what West African spiritual system you're working with. I work more with the Vodun aspect of it, not so much the Ifa aspect anymore, even though I was initiated in the Ifa aspect. And as I said in the past, I kind of left that because it became too fucking religious for me. So I will work with the 7 African powers and the voodoo hoodoo tradition of it. And I use tradition just to identify the path. Matter of fact, in the online classes we get ready to do, that is one of the I believe it's 6 weeks. We're going into the second week. The third or the fourth week, if I'm not mistaken, I can't remember. We will be going into that specifically, and I know you're taking the class, Step Rat. So I'm gonna go into depth on how to set up altars, how to actually initiate yourself in that, rituals, how to actually consecrate when you make your own alekes, and actually how to consecrate. We're going to get into all that shit. I will use some of the examples and the stuff that I had laid out in the work that I did. Not that you have to do it my way, as I said before in the classes, just to give you an example. So there is a way you can connect and work with that energy, but I'm going to show you how you do it. You could do it yourself, step by step, detail, how to set it up. That's what I do in the private classes, because that's not something I would do here openly. And I only say that because, not to make it mystical and secret, look, if you're sincere about your shit, you're sincere about your shit. That's not knocking anybody here. I'm just speaking in general. That's what I do privately. And that's why I do it privately. I just don't feel that's something that I would do here openly, for a multitude of reasons. But Olodumare, that would be the Ifa aspect of it. So it just depends. It's going to vary. Again, when you go into Santeria, pretty much same thing as Ifa. The aspect of how it's worked with is the same. But remember, a Babalawo, when you're saying the word Babalawo, Baba means father, Lawao means father of the mysteries, right? So a Babalawo is an exclusively initiate or high priest of who they call Olodumare, meaning now they could be crowned in Orishi, like the Babalawo, one of my elders in that spiritual system, he was crowned Obatala, but he was also a Babalawo. So a lot of Babalawos will be crowned a specific Orishi, but their devotion and their service is exclusively to serving Olodumare. It's a priesthood. And unfortunately, there is some, discrimination in it as far as gender. In most spiritual, females can't be babalawos. It's just a rule, like they put in man-made religions, which I think is a bunch of horseshit. But you will find in Santeria, you can be a high priest or priestess, or what they say, a padrino or a madrina. So I'm fortunate over the years have had the luxury of working with all aspects. I've worked with babalawos, I've worked with madrinas and padrinos. My padrino who lives in New York, my madrina who's down here in Miami, my babalawo that I've done a lot of work with, Rudy, who's down also in Hialeah. I've had the benefit of experiencing all aspects of it, and it's been a great experience as far as a learning tool, but it's also been a great experience it showed me things of what I don't want to fuck with no more, or really don't want to be a part of no more. So it raised an awareness. So I reflect back on that, and I look at it in regards in that nature, where now That's what the private classes are about. People always ask, well, how do you do this by yourself? Well, I'm not going to sit here in an open video and go into hours worth of material. This is more of just, it's an open thing. Come on, let's be realistic about it. I'm just putting that out there. But what I do in my 20 plus years of experience, that's what the personal dialogue and how the personal classes are set up. As you know, it's done video. We're in a private setting and we all interact with each other. And it's getting ready where we're going to actually, you guys are going to be demonstrating and doing shit. Anyway, we get the point. All right. Duma type said, I'm working with strengthening my ancestral connections, especially that Congo warrior spirit. Also deconstructing that which no longer serves me. And all right, here's a good point. And I know, yes, you're a Congo spirit. For those that have Congo spirits, they're very volatile. They're very fiery. They're very aggressive by nature. For females that have Congo spirits, and some females that have Congo spirits aren't aware, and this is why if you're a female and you're getting what they call a lot of incubus coming to you in your dreams and having sex with you, male Congo spirits can become very possessive of females that have these spirits. I get that a lot. Some females are being or feel a presence in their dreams where they're having sex with spirits in their dreams and they don't understand why. A lot of those Congo spirits, if you are an individual that is aware that you have a Congo spirit, you definitely need to do consistent work. When I say to appease that spirit, I say when you're not acknowledging it, they tend to get very persistent. They tend to do shit to make, get your attention. Dream paralysis, sleep paralysis, feeling the presence at the foot of your bed, literally, not to sound spooky. You start hearing shit in the house, knocking shit over. List goes on and on. But one thing you have to be careful of when you have a Congo spirit, and I can speak from this from experience, and you're not appeasing it when your anger boils. It can be very destructive. It can be very disastrous when you don't have it under control. And I've had that problem in the past over the years. Still working on it, and I don't have it mastered. I have it at a point where I'm confident in it, but I know if that Congo/warrior energy comes out at a moment when I'm heated and angry, it could be disastrous, not only for the person that I'm directing it towards, it can also be disastrous for me. I have to catch myself sometimes, even when I'm out in public or driving in traffic. I feel it. That sometimes we all get that urge for road rage, but I feel another spirit coming through, like where I really just want to get out the car and kick my foot through the glass of the driver's window and snatch him up by his motherfucking neck. That's sometimes how I feel, and I know where that energy comes from. So I have to keep that at bay, because if I cave into it, that can be disastrous for me. So it's always good to understand and work. And how do you appease that spirit? Well, when you get to know the Congo spirit, sometimes it's as simple as just giving them basic offerings as a cool glass of water, cigars, or a certain rum or tobacco that you know that they're familiar with. Or sometimes it could be an ancestral dish if you really are understanding and working with the particular spirit. Because once you start working with and making awareness with that spirit, you become very familiar with their life. I know my particular Congo spirit likes a certain rum, a dark Caribbean brownish rum. That's what they call fire water. That's like 150 or 100. It's a high proof. I can't remember. I have it over here. I know that's one thing. He loves the fire water. He loves the cohibas, or the big thick cigars, and certain food offerings. That's how you acknowledge or appease the spirit. And fresh water. Sometimes you might put, like for an example, for those particular, what they call fiery spirits or energies, there are certain fragrances, colognes or oils that kind of keep the spirit cool, because that's how you got to kind of work with that. Congo spirits are no joke. Now, especially at drumming events, that's when my Congo spirit can express itself. Those that have Congo spirits know they feel at home at Igun events where there's drumming. So I know once them drums start, it's like therapy, right? Think of it as it's like a form of therapy and healing, because most Congo spirits like to express themselves via dance and body movements, via the drum. Now, it could be as simple as a jerk of the head, the arms. Trust me. And those that have come, like the last event we did, the second day we did it was a drum ceremony for the Igun, for the Loha, for the Orishi. We had certain representatives on things represented on the altar. Um, and those that know, when we're doing those type of rituals, it's done for that purpose. It's done to give the spirit an outlet to come through to express. And I tell people at those when we're doing that, the worst thing you could do is sit still, not move around, not dance. Because I've noticed this in the past, and I don't think AP is here now, Brother Adler. And the very first rituals he came to, I remember him sitting in one of the voodoo rituals just like this. Like, I mean, literally just like this. Didn't even move for pretty much the whole night. And I remember catching it a few times and we had a talk, but that changed quickly. Because when the fear comes over you and seizes you, sometimes you're in those rituals and there's what we call a strange sensation or feeling that will start to come over you. And it becomes fear kind of kicks in because it's something you've never felt. Usually that's one of your spirits starting to rise, starting to come out of you and maybe possibly mount you. And the fear comes in because you start thinking or feeling like to do things you've never felt like doing before, and it becomes odd. So some people either lock up and freeze and they try to fight it, or some people just go with it, and whatever happens, happens. That's the purpose for that. But Congo spirits in general, and especially like Brother Dumi, yours, and it's very similar to what I work with, a Congo warrior spirit is even more fierce because by nature, they're very aggressive. By nature, a warrior always seeks things out to conquer. And without something to conquer, they become very bored. But if you're a female and you have a Congo spirit that you're not aware of, that could be the reasons why sometimes you're being or having sexual experiences in your dreams and you're just not aware of it. And there's ways to figure that out. All right. Smooth the God said, I'm finding the ganja is no longer serving me. Yeah. Hey, maybe you've evolved past to it. Now, that's come up in the past, and let me address that real quick. I always get this question: is it good for spiritual purposes, medicinal purposes, healing, to smoke ganja or weed? And my simple answer to that is, and I'm saying this, I'm not a smoker, never really was. I drank, did some of the natural teas dealing with that years back. It's a little different. Those that have done it know what I'm talking about. My answer to that would simply be if it's that pure stuff, not that shit you getting from Rajid, on the corner, that shit is usually diluted, chopped. If it's some organic shit you're growing yourself and that stuff does exist and you feel like it's opening you up and assisting you on your spiritual journey, power to you. I don't judge anybody if they do or they don't. I just don't feel a need for it at all because I feel and know that I'm at the point where if I want to tap in on a higher spiritual level, I don't need, ayahuasca or DNP and any of that stuff. And I'm not knocking people that do. I know I can tap into that aspect of spirituality because of the work I put in over the years without having to utilize that. But having said that, on the flip side, if you are using those things, be it ganja or any other type of intoxicant, that's entirely up to you, and I don't judge and knock you. But in this case, move the God. Maybe you've just outgrown it. Maybe you don't see the benefits of it no more because you've started to align yourself spiritually where you're naturally linked in. It's not having the same effect because you just don't need it no more. And that's kind of where I was at with the teas years back. And my probably purest experience of that was in St. Croix, Virgin Islands, 1992. I met some mountain rosters at the time. My older son's mother, that's where she was from. And we used to go there frequently because our family lived over there. And I encountered them brothers there. And that was an experience, drinking what they call a ganja tea. Because these brothers that call themselves, quote unquote, mountain rosters, they lived with that whole, off the earth. Everything was natural. And, so I was able to spend a little time with them, learn some stuff from them. And I learned that drinking the tea and smoking the shit is two entirely different things, two different effects. So understanding the purity of it as opposed to the, synthetic aspect, the majority of that shit you're getting out in the streets, that's not pure. Okay. All right. So Wacky J says, yes, sir. I really wish I could have made it. I'll absolutely be at the next one like that, especially the Lucid with Chakra work. And I know that was real. Yeah. Like I said, when you when you get to come to one, and that was a beautiful working, because that was something different. That was really far from what we've ever done in the past. And there was an invocation. We actually worked with every chakra, from activating their chakras and how to connect with them. See, that's not a lot of stuff that's talked about. And matter of fact, part of the ritual, or some of it, you can see there's a ritual in Richard, Doom, you typed it in earlier. Page, I think it was. And I said Cage, Richard K. Page's book. If you look at the end of his book, he's got a chakra ritual in there that's very similar. So that's something maybe people can look into and do. So that's an aspect of Luciferianism that nobody really would think on the surface that exists. Yeah, working with your chakras. So that ritual dealt, again, with masculine, feminine energy, activating the chakras, which all of that really ties in and connects to working with the Luciferian or the Lucifer energy, right? That's what the Luciferian energy works with, because all of those things start to activate and raise you to a higher level of awareness. I know it did me, and I know those that were there and participated. Everybody had a certain experience. And then what we did, the second part of that ritual, before we did, we did some of the words, eternal word of set, not all, like we're going to do at this ritual. We had another chamber room set up after you came out of there. Then everybody went into this chamber room we had with the black mirror, and they looked upon their personal daemon, or whatever was communicated to them in that experience that they had in the black mirror / chamber room. There was 3 parts to that ritual, and that's what made it unique. There was a decompression aspect. There was a procession into the chamber room. There was work we did in the chamber room, and then there was work where everybody, one by one, went into the black mirror room to invoke their personal demon. They spent time in there personally. Then we came back and went into the chamber room and finished, with parts of the eternal word of set, and closed the ritual out. So there was 3 parts to that particular work, that particular ritual that we did, all serving a particular. Now, you remember when I was promoting that ritual, remember I said you would see aspects of Luciferianism there, demonic integration, and you would see some aspects of working with, quote unquote, left-hand path Egyptian aspect. All of those were incorporated in that ritual. It was a good experience. Yeah, but we'll have more coming in. Like I said, hopefully you'll be able to participate in that. And then the second day, we're going to do a once a year, or maybe I'm thinking maybe twice, where we do a 2-3 day event. I mean, that was a lot that weekend, because that same day prior to that, that's the day we did the workshops all day. We convened for a few hours, met back up later at night, and then went out to eat after the ritual. And then the next day, met out at the beach and did that ritual there, went and got some grub. And then after we grubbed, we relaxed for a little bit. And then we went out to the cemetery, and we closed it out with a working that we did at the cemetery later that evening, Cursed Tablets of the Dead. We added a little more something to it later in the evening, but yeah, it was a lot of work. And again, the purpose of that 2-day workshop was to show people again that this is work, man. This shit ain't about just reading books and sitting around talking shit and we're having debates. And again, that's why I say, I mean, you go on YouTube and you see all these, again, it's not to knock it, power to you, but you see all these conscious circles and all they're doing is debating. Where's the work? Where's the work we're doing collectively and individually, where we're seeing the growth and the change? Because the only way we're going to bring about change is by connecting to these spiritual systems, not just talking about them, not just having debates about them. Where's the work? And I'm not just talking about saying Hotep and Olafia and pouring out libation for the ancestors. I'm not just talking about the basic shit. I'm talking about doing the real fucking work. That's why this video is titled what it is. All right. What else we got? All right, so Only Type said, I've noticed when I tweaked my mojo, I'm not sure if you're talking about mojo bags that you've created, because that's something I work with a lot too. I have a mojo bag that I created a few months back, working with Papa Legba. Actually, right now in there, I have a sigil that I drew on the floor set up with some offerings. There's a good video. I could send people a link to give you an idea of a basic working you can do with Papa Legba to open the gates. It's a really powerful ritual. And again, feel free to make your adjustments and your change. I created a mojo bag, and usually in a mojo bag, for an example, with an archetype like Papa Legba or deity like Legba, in the bag, or consecrated implements that are connected to Papa Legba. And then you consecrate that bag with powders, herbs, implements on the inside. And you're able to work with that bag on a multitude of levels. So mojo bags, which really is a very popular aspect in the hoodoo voodoo tradition, which again, as I said in the past, I like to work with because it gives you the liberty and freedom not to be restricted. So if you're talking about that, yes, when you start working with that and the energies, or I don't know if you're just talking about your personal mojo, could be talking about that too. There's a connection with that. We hear that, right? We hear that coffee is called mojo, right? They hear that term. I need a good cup of mojo, right? Because it's supposed to give you the energy. Well, mojo bags are charged with the personal energy. If you know and have done work in that pantheon, you know how to activate that energy. You know how to consecrate. And again, this is stuff we're going to go over in the classes. And specifically, when we get to that, dealing with the voodoo and pantheon, I'm going to specifically show people in detail how they can do it on their own, not just the way that I do it, how they can do it on their own by working with certain herbs, implements, how to charge them, how to consecrate your own alekis and charge it and activate and open the gates with Legba, which is very important if you're working that path. The key is understanding with Papa Legba. Just like it's different to me energy than, say, Ifa/Santeria. And don't confuse, they're not really exactly the same. Some will automatically connect that with a Legua. They're similar, but they're not the same if you've worked with them. Papa Legba is that gate opener. And like I say, I'm in the midst of a long working with Papa Legba right now that's been ongoing and continuous since it started when that event we did for Papa Legba, which I believe was back in August or September. So I've been at it that long, put it that way, and some work that I'm doing with Legba consistently on a daily basis. Because of some personal work I've done, and as I mentioned in a video a few months back, I had a personal experience and with that whole Legba energy. So I'm working with that hard right now. Have been now for the last several months. All right. Yeah, Wacky says that special gather man. All right. Work though, building. Yeah, and that's what it's about. And that's what the gatherings are about. They're about that building. Now, sometimes we all need that personal time with each other because there's nothing like being in a room of people that are on the same vibe and energy. You kind of feel like you're at home because you can connect with people that are doing similar like things. And that's the purpose of the gathering. That was the intent from when it was started from day one, was we need to do something regular because as everybody knows that's on this path, unfortunately, that becomes one of the challenges on this path. It's hard to find people that are on this path. It's not like you can just walk out your house and just find somebody that's left-hand path. It's just not like that, unfortunately. Yeah, you can find a lot of people in big cities on that conscious shit. It's everywhere. But we're not really on that shit, not on that level. We're conscious in the sense we're aware, but we're not stuck in that school of thought where I'm strictly Kemetic or I'm an Olafia or I'm a Hotep. We're not on that shit. So the purpose of the gatherings was for that fellowship, for that building, that personal time. It's the time, like I say, just we learn a lot from each other just from going out and having a meal together and breaking bread. You learn a lot. You learn people's personal story, where they come from. And sometimes, the meal is a ritual without you even knowing it being a ritual. Because I always find it when people come for the first time out of state, when we sit down and break that bread, you learn a lot. You learn where they came from, what they did, where they're going, and what their goals are. These are the things I like to, when I'm talking and building with people. These are the things I want to know. Like, all right, so, and it's unique in the sense that look, everybody's on this. Look at it like this. There's a multitude of paths that everybody is taking, but it's all leading to the same place. Look at it in regards to that. If you look at it in that respect, in essence, we're all trying to get to that same destination, but we realize we're all not taking the same exact path or approach. And we can learn from each other in the different approaches that we're taking because our approaches are going to be influenced and dictated by what we're going through in our life on a regular basis. That's what's going to dictate your approach. So this is why when you hear me always talking about everybody, it's not going to be the same for everybody. It's not, because everybody can't take the same approach. That's why an established dogma, religious or philosophical system, one, doesn't work, because it doesn't address the entire needs of the individual. That's the whole point, right? All right, next question is, what are your feelings on incorporating substances like marijuana in your ritual work? All right, I think I kind of just addressed that. So I just addressed that. So I think you heard. All right, so Sister Mama Muerte, about her personal experiences I was speaking on earlier. Like, for instance, with her, since she says okay to speak on some of it, I'll speak on some of it. At the drumming event, once that event started, her gypsy spirit just came down and took complete control of her. She was locked into the point where she don't even remember hardly any of the ritual. I saw it coming right off the bat when we did the opening of the ritual. And then we went into the beginning aspects of the drumming. I mean, put it this way. And I remember her husband, he was sitting next to me. It got to the point where she just started wandering off, and we were talking. I said, "We want to let the spirit express itself," because it was all over the place. But like I said before, remember at those rituals, that sometimes because that spirit hadn't had a venue or an outlet to come through to express itself for such a long time, it needed to make its presence known. Now, the feelings and the things she experienced and went through emotionally and mentally, that's very internal and very personal. So that's something that'll stay with her. But that spirit, what I can tell, and I only tell you what I told her on the surface, I won't get too in depth. It's a very complex spirit in the sense that it sees the beauty in the world, but it also sees the horror and the negativity in the world. It struggles with, how can a place like this be so beautiful, but yet at the same time be so horrific and fucked up? Gypsy spirits tend to, well, we call them katana, right? Katana spirits tend to be very fluctuating in emotions. They can be very friendly and open. They like, the engagement and being around people. But emotionally, they tend to be a roller coaster. And also I put this out there just in a brief, they tend to, a lot of them will tend to have suicidal thoughts. And I only say that not in a bad way. I'm saying, you say, well, what does that mean? How could anything suicidal not be bad? Only because they, again, back to the point of, they feel like, how can a place like this be so beautiful, but yet so fucked up at the same time? But anyway, I ain't gonna go too depth into that. But again, that's kind of, I'm using that example per se of her experience at the last event. That can tend to happen when you're not expecting it, because all of us have certain energies / spirits that we're connected to, some that we are aware of and some that we are not. Or we might have a certain awareness of them, but maybe not to the extent that we think we have that awareness. But that was unique. And one thing I always tell people, when the spirit mounts you, you'll never be harmed. So sometimes the shit can look a little crazy or bizarre externally, but you just you let it flow. If it's genuine and it's right off the bat, you just let it flow. You'll never get hurt. That's some people's fear. I think some people that I've seen in the past, that not just the events we've done, events that I've been to, sometimes to see a human being react a certain way, maybe just by the way they're moving their body or the way the spirit is affecting them. If you've never really seen it on a regular basis, it can be a little, at first, it's new, so it could be a little disturbing in the sense that it may come off a little odd because you're not used to it. But once you start experiencing it regularly, you get accustomed to it. It doesn't become quote unquote bizarre. I've seen it happen in the past. It can be a little frightening if you're not used to it. I've seen it scare the shit out of people when you don't see them again. All right. Okay, so here's another comment by Mama Muerte. Thank you so much. Biggest challenge was recognizing chaos as affirmation. I'm on the right path instead of crawling into a little ball, knowing blessings are coming after every challenge. And that's good. And that's sometimes too, that's the nature. Katana spirits can be, even though they can be very sociable, but they can at periods they can be very introverted, unfortunately. But the very fact that you recognize the chaos in your life and you're able to make order out of it, right? And or you use the word challenge. That's why I keep saying it. Everything is a challenge. Now remember, always remember, the energies and the vibration and frequencies are changing around you constantly, every day. From the people you have around you, your spouse or significant other, your children are always altering and changing your energy. You're always affected on a daily basis when you go out into the public. Your business, your work, or just simply out in the grocery store. There's always an exchange, a taking and a giving of energies. And we're always affected by it. If we understand how we're affected by it, we're able to make, order out of that. All right? And hold on, things skipped again. Hold on. Okay, then I'm working typed in chaos, drama, a pet, fear, everything that pisses you off. I don't know why. I guess if you use profanity, sometimes they block it. Everything that pisses you off when you learn to face that shit and tell it to kick the rocks, the button is insane. Yeah. Always remember, you hear this all the time. You're always in control. You always have the ability to command and control the pep/chaos. Now, I've done a lot of work with the concept of a pep. Matter of fact, on my altar now, I have two snakes that I keep on each side, not literal snakes. I found two symbols of snakes. And how I've set my altar up, and I'll show it, not now, but I'll show it one day. I keep the serpents on each side. I keep set in the middle, and the pentagram is set in front of it. Now, that's a reminder when I look at it, everything is always engulfed in chaos. When I look at set represents me at the forefront. I'm always keeping order of that chaos. So I keep that now as an imagery on my altar for every time I go to my black magic altar. That's the first thing I see when I look at it head on. And I have two long black serpents on each side, set in the middle. It just creates it activates a certain part of the psyche that kicks that energy in reference to what you were saying. It always reminds me that I'm in control. It always reminds me that chaos will come because everything is engulfed in chaos/darkness because all things emerge out of that darkness, quote unquote, what we term good or bad. And kind of what you said reminds me of that. All right, so my multitask saying both Papa and I don't know what the best time. Just have him text me since I am off this week on vacation. Have Dave text me, so I need to have a quick conversation with him. I don't know. I know he works constantly. Just tell him to text me a good time to call him tomorrow. Give him a quick call. All right. Wacky J types in, yes, a journal. It really helps. Yes, earlier I was talking about keeping what some call a magical diary, a journal. It's always a great tool to go back and chart your progress. Also, if you create and write rituals without putting my magic diary, a lot of the rituals that we do here, a lot of rituals I create personally, I'll write them in my own personal diary. It's always good to go back and reflect on them. And then I'll also go in there and put commentary on some of the experiences. So you can use the magical journal/diary for a multitude of reasons, right? All right, then Mikey J types in, yep, you can see personal progress from 1 week to the next or even a month. That's true. Or years, or however long you're keeping it. All right, so if I'm saying it right, Seatway 3, hopefully I pronounced that right, I didn't butcher it, says, giving my blood to Red Cross is coming Friday. Should you go over again the relationship between the DNA blood type and aligning yourself with what specific energies and gods are better for you? Okay, try to do this. That's a detailed question. One, I don't know what your blood type is, but Not telling you not to or not to give blood to the Red Cross. Be careful with that. I know your intent is probably good. You got to be careful, especially if you're O positive blood, because with that or even O negative, but more so O positive, because that's really the blood that they look for, and taking those blood donations, because as you know, O positive blood can be donated to any blood type or transfusion to any type, but O positive blood, we can't receive any blood type but O. Sometimes they do that to find where those O positive types are, because you don't want the information getting into certain records. I don't want to get spooky or conspiracy theories, but sometimes people come up missing, if you understand what I'm saying. Again, not telling you what not to do with that. I know your intent is good. I don't really do that. Now, if it was an emergency and I had to do it for an individual, a loved one, a family member, or somebody that was in need, I would. But again, that's entirely up to you. Not telling you to or not to. DNA blood. When dealing with your DNA and understanding your relationship between DNA blood type and aligning yourself with specific energies. Well, one, your blood type, you can align yourself with whatever energy you choose, but do certain blood types connect you to more energies than others? Yes. You'll find that most people that have O positive blood types have more aggressive, like the Congo spirits we were talking about earlier. O positive or O blood types tend to be more aggressive by nature. They tend to be more carnivorous by nature. You'll find most of your O positive, I'm not saying all, most of your O positive people are meat eaters. They need more higher levels of protein because of that aggression. I talked about this in the past, where people with more A and B blood types tend to be more herbivorous by nature and by diet. They tend to be more of your vegetarians. They need less amount of protein. You'll find most people that struggle being vegetarian have O positive blood. I'm not saying, look, I'll make this clear. You might say, oh, I know somebody that's O positive vegetarian. I'm not saying that an O positive person can't be a vegetarian. I am just saying, for the most part, you will find that they are not successful at doing it. They tend to work with more aggressive energies or spirits. Now, having said that, an individual can do whatever work they want to work with whatever spirit they see fit, deity, archetype, energy that they see fit, as long as they do whatever work that they need or ritualistic work that they need to do to connect with that energy. So you're not really limited by your DNA blood as far as working with archetypes or deities. Now, ancestral spirits, things of that nature, yes, that's a whole different approach, because you are who you are by your blood. Your blood type dictates who you are, right? By nature. Now, unfortunately, I've talked about this in the past, and some people have taken it the wrong way. So I'm going to reiterate it. It's not a matter of how you take it. It's a matter of what it is. By nature and spirit, you will find A and B blood is more prominent amongst the Caucasians, right? Which means that's a fact. You could be completely dark-skinned, have woolly or kingly hair, as they say, but have more genetic Caucasian blood running through your veins than, say, somebody that's O positive, could be Latino or very fair-skinned, and has more African blood running through their veins. You are who you are by your blood. And I don't mean that you're not connected, because some people take that the wrong way and they say, oh, I'm not connected to my African spirituality. How can I be that if I'm a dark-skinned person and I look like this? Very simple, by mixing of the blood. It don't mean that you can't connect or you're not connected. It just means genetically what's running through the veins. This also could explain by nature why you have certain likes and dislikes, why you are attracted to certain things in spirituality. For an example, you could be somebody that could be, completely dark-skinned and that part of your bloodline connects to West Africa, but for some reason you like Oriental culture. You don't know why. Or you like some things, in Irish food or English food or whatever. This is because you have some of that blood running through your veins. When you're working with your ancestral Igun, I keep telling people like to connect with just what they know and what they like. But unfortunately, when reality hits, I've watched at spiritual gatherings where somebody who was so Afrocentric found out they had some type of Caucasian ancestral spirit, and they were like completely thrown back and shocked by it. You deal with it how you want. I couldn't give a fuck. I'm telling you it's a reality. I'm telling you to master working with spirits and energy, especially your ancestral spirits. You're going to find out in this work, some are going to emerge forward that you were not even aware of, and they're going to kind of shock you and throw you back. And you're going to say, what the fuck? Because you hyped yourself up in your mind that you're so African and spiritual and that you thought everything was Africa this and Africa that, you didn't counter the fact that everybody's bloodline has been mixed, regardless of what we look like now. I don't give a fuck who you are. You can play African just because you wear a motherfucking dashiki and you might know your parents were from Ghana. That don't mean you're 100% African. Okay? And stop fooling yourself and thinking that just because you study Egyptian Kemetic information that you're a direct descendant of the ancient Egyptians. That is a bunch of horse shit if I've ever heard it, because that's an illusion that you create within your mind. You are going to find out you are so much more than just that. You understand? So if you want to master the aspect of working with the Igum or the ancestors, you must connect with all things in your bloodline. So identifying that, and when you're able to, and then make the adjustment, that's how you know by where you are who you are by your blood. Don't be fooled to what we look like. You understand? Because I've told you, I've used this. Soul and rhythm is not something you can teach somebody. You understand? And I always use my analogy on the drums. I've seen some brothers sit down and try to attempt to play drums, and they're fucking horrible. Where I've watched a dark-skinned dude sit down, and I know many dark-skinned brothers that play drums, they mastered it. They're amazing at it. I'm just using a metaphor many times what I've seen. Not a metaphor. I'm using something I've actually seen and experienced. I've watched some brothers sit down and play drums with no rhythm. And then I've watched some light-skinned Cuban or Latino get down there with straight hair and European features and go off on the drums. That's something that's in the blood. That's why I say you can't teach people to play the drums. I don't believe that. Yeah, you can teach them to play basic rhythms and patterns. But when somebody is locked in, especially ritualistically, it's a natural gift to me from the ancestors and the spirits. So that's just how I approach it. You might beg to differ, but I don't believe you can teach somebody to play the drums. They have to have that natural ability, that natural connection with the soul and rhythm that connects them to their ancestors. And you see that. And then sometimes when people get locked in, you see as they're playing, the spirit overwhelms them. And then I know when I'm locked in, my eyes are closed. I'm not even looking at the drum. I could play the drum with my eyes closed. I don't even look at the shit. And sometimes I forget I'm even there when I'm locked in and we're doing certain rituals. Now I feel my hands hitting the drums, but I could close my eyes and play the drums for hours. Don't even have to look at the skin. What I'm saying is that just comes with, nobody taught me how to play drums. I was never sat down and taught you need to play like this. No, I just don't believe that. To me is a gift from the spirits. That's not something that really can be taught. I'm not talking about the basic, yeah, they have drum classes. They teach you play this rhythm. Don't. I'm not talking about that shit. Yeah, you can teach people the basic shit like that. But in essence, to me, you either know how to play or you don't. But so to finish up your question, yeah, it goes a little bit more in depth. You're not limited by your blood type as far as what energies you want to work with. I would connect that more with your ancestral spirits. You should get familiar with that because it's going to help identify your nature, your personality, your characteristics, why you do the things you do, your likes, your dislikes. You might have certain things that baffle you. Why am I attracted to that? Why do I like that food? Why? That's why, because you have those ancestral spirits running through your blood. All right. Only types in, I'm going to take a few more questions and get ready to wrap this up. So, all right. I've been journeying, being quiet, and just taking in all the changes and energies happening around me. That is one of the recommendations of Odu Ifa, Oshe Meje, the twins. Okay. Chundi. Okay. Sister Mandy shedding some tears. It's all right. Let it out, girl. Let it out. Gilberto touching another question that just came to me, brother, is, so me being Mexican, I am interested also in La Santísima Muerte. My question is, how would you work with her when so much of the rituals you see in the books dedicated to her has so much to do with God and the Catholic religion? How would Luciferian navigate around that aspect of it? That's a great question. Let me say this, Gilberto, being Mexican, look, I'm going to make this clear because this gets spooked. When we say the melanated family, the Mexicans are part of the melanated family, regardless of how you look. You are who you are by the blood that runs through your veins. When you could have Mexicans, Cubans, all different types of Latinos, even Asians are part of the melanated family. We're not saying that they're 100% pure Africans, because people get this shit twisted, but they are linked in genetically to the melanated family. So let's establish that. I don't give a fuck what anybody says. They could have a difference of opinion of that. And I've dealt with that bullshit for years from day one. Sometimes you don't fit people's definition of being what they call melanated. One, I couldn't give two flying fucks. I'm not worried about what other people say or think, because we know if we shake out genealogy lines that a dark African will fall out of that tree. So when we make that connection of being part of that family, we're not saying we are making the claim we are pure dark-skinned Africans, but we have so many of us that are mixed with so many different ethnicities and part of so many different families. By blood, we tie in and connect, and some of us have made that conscious decision to connect with that part of our spirituality. You understand? So you're naturally linked in. Being of Mexican descent, there's such a great cultural heritage that's connected to that. Now, I had said all that to say this, to get to your question about La Santísima Muerte. I would suggest ConjureMan Ali. He, if you've never read his book, I believe it's called Santísima Muerte, The Holy Death, ConjureMan Ali. He takes it back to the Aztec goddess of the underworld, which that's the real origin of Santísima Muerte. Now, how you can bypass the Catholicism shit, because obviously today, as practiced, let's say in modern day in Mexico today, there is a lot of Catholicism influence. It's like very Santeria energy, like how the Cubans will use the icons of Catholicism and mask it, but actually behind that they're worshiping African gods and goddesses. Well, Santísima Muerte can be synchronized with a lot of the female goddesses of the underworld. Very similar also in nature to Kali. But how I would work, I can only tell you how I work with Santísima Muerte. I use no aspect of Catholicism. I don't use no rosary, how they use it in modern day Mexico. I only work with the black aspect of Santísima Muerte. Now, I'm not saying that that's what you have to do. You will see different icons, let's say, or statues of Santísima Muerte, right? You will see a rainbow colored one, you'll see a white one, a red one, a solid black. I work solely with Santísima Muerte as a road opener, gateway type of keeper deity. I activate her energies with, again, if you book I suggested ConjureMan Ali, I will activate her again as a road opening. Very strong energy. I work with her as one of the spirits of the dead. Create my own rituals and work with her. I will give her certain in some of those certain rituals, I will give her certain what we call offerings, not blood offerings, food offerings, plant offerings. You'll see owl plant is something traditionally utilized in some of her work, etc. But long story short, to move away from all the Catholicism shit, now you'll see she definitely is responsive to people. You'll hear on the surface that she works heavily in favor of drug lords and prostitutes, and that's only part of it. She does definitely approach or activates an energy within an individual that might be in those fields. But I will say this: if you do the research on the Aztec goddess of the underworld, where the origin comes from, it's not an energy to fuck around and play with. It can go awry. It can be very possessive in the sense, controlling. This is why it's always recommended to keep her altar set up by itself with nothing. I don't put it with anything else, because I can tell you from my experience, I would walk into my altar room. I remember years ago when I first put it up, I had it with some other stuff, and I would always get these migraine headaches. And I walk in there and this feeling of confusion would come over me. What it does is, because it's such a powerful energy within your psyche, the reason why it's suggested to keep it by itself, and even those initiates, remember, I went into in Palo Mayombe, there's a whole, some people are initiated into the mysteries of Santísima Muerte. Well, that's a whole nother fucking story. We'll get into that another time. But you can work with her implements, her sigils, anything dealing with the dead, anything opening roads or pathways, anything kind of like, again, similar to Legba, opening the gates to connect you to your higher potential. These are methods and aspects you can utilize to shift completely away from just petitioning Santísima Muerte for revenge, because sometimes it's kind of presented like that. Oh, she's the whole death. You can activate her to do just destructive magic. You can, because believe me, she will fuck some shit up if need be. But I want to make it clear that's not the only aspect to work with it. So there's a multitude of ways you can work with it, no doubt. I would take your own personal approach. Use what it represents. And that's why I use the black aspect, because that Reaper symbolicism, or that working with the spirits of the dead, gateway keepers, road openers, I work with it in that sense. And I've used it. I've used Santissima Muerte to do a lot of successful financial work, to open financial prosperity for me. It works tremendous. But I say this, because you're making a pact, in essence, it might sound crazy, you're making a pact with yourself. When what I've done is, on parchment paper, when I first set up my altar, first started working with the Holy Death, I made a pact with the Holy Death that I would constantly keep a light there for the Holy Death, meaning a black candle that I know, scented with, what do they call that? Charged with her oil. That's my personal pact that I keep there with the Holy Death, in addition to some other things I ain't going to talk about openly. So I keep that there consistently. You must keep that pact, because it's a pact with yourself. It's a reminder. When you're doing pact work with deities, understand that's what a pact is. It's not that you're making a pact externally with the deity. It's a reminder with yourself, because when you stop doing it, then you start seeing shit starts going amok, or it doesn't pan out right, or etc. Shit's not going. It's a reminder that you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. So in essence, remember, the deity is an aspect, a part of your psyche in this case, and you're activating that higher intelligence within yourself. So that can be beneficial for you, or that could be actually destructive for you. But I could tell you this, it's activating an aggressive part of your psyche. So when you're working with that, be very meticulous, if that's the word I want to use. Be very, dot your I's and cross your T's. Because I can tell you the Holy Death energy is nothing to fuck with. So if you are setting out to do that, I don't say that to sound all spooky and be scared. I'm saying that I take it as serious work, serious business. And as I'm talking about it, because this door leads to my chamber room, I can feel the energy as I'm talking about it. I can feel that Holy Death energy, like, you better recognize, bitch, type of energy. It's the best way I could describe it. But that's how you can use that Luciferian mindset to be open to eliminating all that Catholicism shit. And that's why I said get ConjureMan Ali's book, because ConjureMan Ali goes through both aspects. He shows you how it's utilized in modern day Mexico today, but then he's showing you how there's a group of indigenous people from Mexico that are actually offended by how it's practiced today in modern day Mexico. And these are direct descendants of these Aztec tribes. And they feel like it's a mockery kind of to the real spiritual essence of what the Holy Death is and what it represents. So I take it back to the goddess of the underworld. I work with a Holy Death from that aspect. I don't work with any Catholicism or Christianity or Christianized aspect of it, because to me that's all bullshit. Now, having said this, using the Luciferian mindset, if there are people that have and they use the more Catholicism aspect of it and they're getting results, power to you. So I want to throw that on top, because I'm not bashing it. I'm just saying it doesn't work for me. I have no interest of utilizing that. Now, the funny thing is, because this is how the spirits will work, I found out through Legba that the Legba energy that I was working with, I mentioned this a few months ago, that I needed to connect with a certain aspect of Catholicism because the way certain spirits were trying to come through. So it's a kind of identified process as you go. But I know with the Holy Death is more of that Palo aspect of the Holy Death that I like to work with. It's that more aggressive. You can use it for destructive purposes if see fit. Again, that's not anything I would talk about openly. I remember somebody had asked me one time, have I ever done a death spell? I would never talk about that openly in the video. That's crazy. That's ludicrous. The answer is destructive magic. Of course, I've done it in the past. But I've also said this, you should not, if you're somebody that's working magic all the time to get back at people, something's wrong with you. You're out of sync. You're not in line. So I mentioned many times in the past, I could probably count on one hand how many times I've had to do something destructive. Because if you should have some people hating you, then you're doing shit right. But if all people hate you, something is wrong. And vice versa. If everybody loves you, something is wrong. Because that means you're a weak person. So occasionally, yes, you got to put some people in check to get out of line and cross the boundary. But you should only have to do that very limited, because then you're not in control of yourself. If you're that open to people attacking you where you got to work destructive magic constantly on somebody, then something's not right with you. So it's kind of a two-edged sword to that. Well, hopefully that helps you out. Victor Perry, and the same one that asked about blood and DNA, Set-Way03. How would you suggest getting your DNA? All right, now there are good. You got to be careful. There's some bullshit ones out there. I would suggest you do a thorough DNA, a maternal and a paternal. Some people just do one. They'll do the paternal side. That doesn't tell the full story, which is the father. The maternal side is the mother. I would do a thorough find. I've done Ancestry.com. There's Ancestry DNA. There's another good one out there. I can't think of the name of it offhand. There's different ones, though. Study. Don't do the basic shit. Do the one that gives you the haplogroups, right? It takes you back over 4 generations. It'll map the haplogroups based on where the origin of your bloodline starts, the very beginning. Like, for an example, I'll use my example on my test. Origin of my bloodline starts in Northeast Africa, right? Believe it or not, which is crazy, blew me away. I had more blood markers that were more in sync, mostly with people in Ethiopia. Now, we know Ethiopia today is mixed, obviously. So mine, to give you the short summarization, would start in Northeast Africa. Then it worked its way up into India. Then it went from India into the southern part of Italy called Sicily. Then it went from Sicily here to the United States. You understand? But it gets more in depth when you do the haplogroups, the paternal and the maternal on both sides. You will see the breakdown. And then what it does is it shows you the markers of all the ethnicities in those countries and how many of yours or how many matches you had with those haplogroups. So I would find a DNA, and you're going to be surprised, because when you do that, you're going to find out again why you might like certain foods. Like maybe like you like Ethiopian food and you didn't know you had Ethiopian in your bloodline. You understand what I'm saying? So to me, that's the best way. Now there's some people will be debatable of how accurate those tests are. You'll be able to confirm that accuracy. You'll be able to confirm it based on the research you did. Now, one thing that came up in mine, which made a lot of sense, in Peru, I have a lot of connection with a specific Peruvian Indian tribe. When I researched the tribe, I found out I was doing stuff with that years ago before I even knew about it, but it explained to me why I gravitated towards Native American culture. Didn't understand. I have a whole altar set up to Native American spirits, and I plan on doing a video on that soon. That's probably my next video. We're going to talk about shamanism and getting into some of the Native American stuff. And I've been working with that since the early 90s. Never knew why I was so drawn to it, but in that DNA test I did, it linked me to a specific tribe in Peru, which also, as I did the research, I'm taking certain Peruvian herbs that have helped me tremendously. And I started taking these herbs in probably 07, 08. One of them you guys probably heard of. It's very, very popular. I take it in natural form is maca, M-A-C-A. It's a great herb. Not just for sexual enhancement. People think it's just for that. It's actually for your circulatory system, for the blood to flow right, builds up the immune system. Because you'll be able to now identify now certain things that are in your blood, because that's a Peruvian herb or something that was very prominent amongst the Peruvian tribes. I found because it's in my blood, it works very well for me, where some other people could use it, may not get the same benefits. I'm just using that example. It's going to help you identify a lot of shit about yourself. So I would say that would be a good place to start. But do your research. When you find these DNA tests, there's different types. Take your time, read through them. The more thorough ones are a little more expensive. They offer you these basic packages. Usually that one that they offer for I did it years ago. I think they offer it for like $30, $40. That's usually just a paternal one. It doesn't give you the telltale all. Do both aspects. And as you go on these sites, you will see they have different packages, breakdowns, and how far back it goes. So that would be a good place to start. That would also address, some people say, well, what if I was adopted, or what if I was an orphan and I don't know nothing about my bloodline ancestors? That I've suggested many people to do that in the past, and they were able to even set up altars and push them in the right direction. And they started working with energies connected to what they found out in that DNA test. And it also revealed to them some ancestral spirit guides they weren't aware of. So that's a good way, or a good answer to somebody that says, I'm adopted. I never knew my parents. I don't know anything about my family. I don't know nothing about my grandparents. Well, that's another method you could use. All right. All right. I think we're almost done here. I'm trying to finish them all. Oh, wow. Oh, guess not. Damn. All right. I'll try to get through these quick. I might skip a few. Damn, you really went off. Okay. All right. Let me see where I left off. Okay. All right. I'm going to skip some of the comments. I'm just going to kind of go through it. All right. Okay, I'm worth the touch. I finally got the incenses you use that I requested. Obsessed, so worth the price. Perfect example. You get what you pay for. Yeah, and the incense that I use, in the rituals, it's a blend of a two. I sent that blend to Mandy. It's a whole different quality, and incense is important for your ritualistic work because the smell sense activates a certain level of awareness and consciousness. It brings up a certain vibe and a frequency. So you do need to be very educated on incense you're using for ritualistic work. Like before I came and started shooting this video, I was in my chamber room. I was doing more aggressive work. So I was working with dragon's blood, different resins of dragon's blood, because of the work I was doing. In the ceremonial or the group rituals, there's a blend that I use. Most of it comes from the Middle East and Northeast Africa because it creates a certain vibe. And their resins, their leaves and powders. Some of them are made in these little bricks that you break off. Some of them are in resins and powders. Some of it looks like leaves, like shit from outside you would just pick up. I use them for a certain reason. And those that have participated in the ritual, that's one thing I always get. What was that shit you were burning? The very fact that I get that shows that it's working because the incense that we're using in that ritual is supposed to set a certain mood. So it helps and enhances you focusing and concentrating on the work that we're getting to do in the ritual. So, yes, I'm glad you got that blend. And I'm sure you're going to be able to use it for your personal work. Brother Kendrick, peace, brother. Got here real late. All right. Okay. AB Miami, peace, brother, peace, God. Wacky J12, the work. Why I got much respect for you, Benita. You and Ravana Noon sparked something, italics in me, that inspired to take control and grow to the next level based on the work and a transformation. Well, appreciate that, brother. If that's the effect you got, then that's what we're trying to achieve. Peace. Look who showed up. The moderator decides she wants to pop in. Just whenever she feels. Let me stop messing with it. Peace to Sister Sonia, and like I say, and again, I'm not just trying to get brownie points. I always got to shout out people that do a lot of work, and I know some of y'all know like Mandy and people that have come to the work. The sister does a lot of work. She helps me out tremendously. She moderates the channel. You can't do all this stuff by yourself. So I know we've all told her, people that have come, and if you come and you see her work, you understand what I'm saying. So I want to give a shout out to her. Sometimes I know I probably don't do that enough. And also she has a lot of creative input on the ritual. So I want to put that there too. She's actually come up with some of them or sparked a thought for some of them. We've literally sat down and she'll just randomly come out with some shit on her head. And I've gotten sometime inspired by just like the one we did. I think it was the Legba one and the one before that. That just came in a random conversation with her. So I want to give her a shout out for sparking and assisting in some of that creative work. All right. So I want to make that clear. So it's a group effort. It's not something, just done by me. I know Brother Jack, he contributes and helps out, Brother Seth Athner, etc. So I want to shout those people out. They've been there pretty much since day one, helping and assisting on some level. And it takes the work. We need the people to come together. But like I say, those that have come and seen Sister Sonia work with now, you see Sonia in the rituals. She'll cast the circles now. She plays an active role in doing the work in the rituals. It's not just, me. Brother Jack, if you came to the Papa Legba ritual, he did the work with Dumbella Weedu. So, yeah, shout out to those people, that help, because that's what it's about. All right, so what else we got? I'm just going to kind of skip some comments and stuff to get to any more questions to kind of wrap. I always say I'm going to be on here for 2 hours. That shit never works out. All right. Papa Nieves. Oh, here you go with the fucking Wakanda shit. It's an inside joke. Now, but yeah, I know you heard me earlier. If you didn't, I am on vacation the whole week. You might have sent me a text already. I ain't look at my phone yet, but send me a text. We need to go over that Papa Candelo stuff real quick and have a quick conversation. All right. Kendrick, can't be as odd as catching the Holy Spirit in church. Yeah, I laugh because years ago, I got invited to a Pentecostal church, right? I ran out to a Pentecostal reverend in the street. At that time is when we used to set up tables and sell products. This was in New York. And I'm talking to the dude. So the dude said, the reverend said, I'll come to one of your classes, if you come to one of our church services. So I said, all right. They had a service, and afterwards, and they had I guess you call it Bible study or whatever the fuck it was after. It was on a Wednesday night. And I never forget, I'm watching these motherfuckers catch the spirit and, foaming at the mouth and hamada and all this shit. And I'm like, in the Bible study, Reverend, didn't take into account that, I knew that Bible probably better than he did. So I drew out the section in 2 Corinthians about spirits. And it clearly says in there that if somebody's catching a spirit, one must be recording what the spirit is saying, the other must be interpreting it. So I had brought up, I didn't see any of that taking place. I just saw people foaming at the mouth, acting crazy, but most of it was an act, you could tell. Short story to say, most of them got, he did, got pissed off. As you can know where that dialogue went, didn't go very far. And he got mad. I'm just saying, according to your Bible, I didn't see how you're supposed to communicate with spirits done in accordance with your religion. Well, needless to say, I was asked to leave because he took it very offensive. And that agreement didn't last too long, need I say. But yeah, some funny shit. All right, let's see what we got. OT diagnosed as schizophrenic at one point. Okay. Trying to see what that was in relation to. Schizophrenia. I actually, believe it or not, had somebody close to me that had that. That can be a very complicated thing. Depends on, again, I can only speak on what I've seen and experienced with it. Obviously, if you're an individual dealing with it, obviously you would know a lot better, but that's not an easy thing to deal with. Not sure how that affects your spirituality or your growth. I'm sure it does to an extent. So, what else we got here? I'm just going to take a few more. Kendrick, to your I don't know if I would 100% go by that about positive blood types coming from monkeys. That's not 100% entirely true. And Rh negative, right, obviously comes from the rhesus monkey, right? This is a scientific fact. You can look that up. There is a connection to part of what you're saying, but I wouldn't say that all positive blood types come from monkeys. That's more dealing with an evolutionary concept. You will see that in certain scientific circles. I have read that, but I've also done further research to find that that's not 100% entirely true. All right. Okay, this is a good point. Kendrick says, I am A negative and melanated, but most of my family is light-skinned Creole, so I guess that's where the white, yes. And that's a good point to recognize. And it just means, just because, again, we'll make this clear. It doesn't mean because you're A negative, you're Caucasian. It just means that it's there in the blood. Just like myself. Obviously, I'm O positive, but physically, I don't look like African in any regards to that, but I have African blood running through my veins. When I trace my ancestral lineage, I know what I'm mixed with and why it creates my physical appearance. So it works both ways. I want to be clear on that. But understanding your blood type will help you understand your nature and your personality. It'll help you understand the way you behave, likes and dislikes. How many of us know people that could have that Caucasian blood running through the veins, and they might have the nature or react like this? Is why you see a lot of these by nature. The way we react to certain things in society comes from that programming, right? Part of it is not understanding our DNA and our nature. And it doesn't just, again, come with understanding and accepting what you like. It comes with embracing all of it, and how do you work with it, and how do you tie it in. Yes, Duma Ken, that's a good point. The book by Conjurman Ali, it's on Scribe. I couldn't find it. It used to be available on Amazon. Now, I haven't checked. It's been a minute. For some reason, it's hard to find the book online to purchase the hard copy. Because somebody had emailed me about that when I suggested that book a few months back. You can get it on Scribe. It is available digital. But if you have Scribe app, you can get the whole thing on Scribe. You may, and again, I haven't checked in a few months, so you may have a hard time finding a hard copy of it. I think it's a book that went out of print, and he hasn't printed it up in a while. All right. Yeah, Mama Morty types in what they're saying, but there's times where I drink or get mad and want to fight. It's like something takes over me and I don't remember any of it. Pop told me he sees it and it's fire. That's it. And that would explain it. Uh-huh. Oh, shit. Damn. Skipped on. Bear with me, people. I'm trying to wrap it up. Thing jumped on me again. This fucking thing. I hate this thing. All right, here we go. Okay, oh no. There we go. All right, Victor Perry types in, is path working in the Kabbalah the same as working rituals? Is there an Egyptian tree of life, for an example? Does Tipperath correspond to Osir? Yes, there is. If there is aspects of working with the Kabbalah or the Kabbalion tree, in the Egyptian left-hand path aspect of it, actually we work with it on some levels. Now remember, you could correlate that tree, the Kabbalah tree, in many different systems, not just as known in Hebrew mysticism of the Kabbalah, the tree of life. In the left-hand path, for an example, we work with that on a multitude of levels. Actually, I believe the Necrominion book has the whole tree of life broken down in the Egyptian aspect of it, or how you would look at it on the left-hand path. Now, I also know, being an initiate, 11th degree, and the Rosicrucian order, Kabbalah mysticism and Kabbalah work from a ritual aspect of it is practiced regularly on the temple degrees. So yes, I have seen also Tipperath and the Egyptian left-hand path aspect of it connected to Usir. There's many different variations, synchronization, and interpretations of it. I have worked with that aspect of it, again, in the temple degrees of the Rosicrucian order, which considers themselves an Egyptian-based initiatic order. If you've been to the Rosicrucian order, you know what I'm talking about. So yes, you could connect it to a sense, that path working to a ritualistic sense as you described with the Kabbalah. But I know on left-hand path, we definitely work with that. But we might have adjusted the breakdown, of the meanings of the corresponding aspects of the tree of life. Again, they're synchronized with a little bit different, especially when you're working with it on left-hand path aspects. All right, Kim H. I think I answered it. The Instagram. No, I'm not on Instagram. All right, what else we got here? All right, we're just going to skip some of the comments. And, all right, I think we're at the bottom. Last two questions here. All right, I'm going to take these last two. That's it, because we're approaching 3 hours, people. All right. Victor Perry, I'm not sure if I understand this question, but I'll try my best. Is astrology more informative than blood type telling? Maybe you meant personality, personality. I'm not sure if I understand. Maybe it was a misspell. I wouldn't say one is more important than the other. It just depends on what aspect you're working with. Now, I deal with astrology, especially in certain aspects that I'm working with magic, especially if I'm planning magical rituals. I like to time it. And with the astrology, the movement of the planets, the motioning of the moon, positioning of the sun, astrological signs. That's very important when working with certain energies. Now, I say that because it just depends on what aspect, because there's different ways of working with astrology. That's how I utilize it. Now, blood type to me is a more definitive, direct approach with identifying certain things. If you meant personality, unless I'm not understanding the word. So again, it would just depend on your aspect and how you're using astrology. But astrology definitely plays a role in magic. Some use it, more. Candle magic is another time I'll use it heavily. Candle magic, a lot of the candle magic systems are heavily centered around astrology and the astrological movements and the astrological signs. If I can plan, as I mentioned before in the past, if I can plan a ritual and a timing, if you guys noticed, most of the ritualistic work is done when the new moon is coming in, and that's why they're timed for that time of the month. If you look, it's always at the time where there's a new moon coming in. So there's a reason, because there's a higher energy, a higher frequency. So yes, there's a connection with that. Just depends on how you work with it. All right. All right. I think, yeah, we're at the bottom. All right. So real quick, I'm going to wrap it up real quick. Again, just a reminder, November 30th is the next ritual that we'll be doing here. That's Friday night, November 30th at 8 o'clock. It will be the Black Mass and the Eternal Word of Set ritual. We will be doing all 19 parts of the Eternal Word of Set. That will be on the 30th of November. That will be the last ritual for this year. We will be doing a private ritual in the month of December. There will not be a flyer going out for it. As I've said in the beginning of the video, if you are in the area and you would like to come, just simply contact me. There will not be a flyer or anything going out for that work. If you need a spiritual consultation / reading, a little tied up for the next few days. I know Sister Hikor fit you in for tomorrow. It's kind of if I can get you in. If not, I'm kind of looking to do that over the weekend, moving forward in next week, because I got a lot of shit going on the next few days with family visiting. I will be enjoying my Turkey Day. I don't give a fuck. I don't celebrate Thanksgiving, quote unquote, for the mainstream. To me, the holidays are family gatherings and fun. I get to see people I don't get to see throughout the course of the year. I'm looking forward. I got my uncle coming. I got my older sister coming. I got a relative I haven't seen in years and coming. My sons. So I look forward just to getting together, shooting shit, watching some football, eating some turkey. So I'm chilling. I don't give a fuck. Don't get into all that conscious coon shit. Thanksgiving is a white man. Huh? I don't celebrate it on that level. I don't give a fuck. Don't act like motherfuckers don't eat turkey. Be all them conscious coons. They be the first ones eating turkey. No, let me stop. It's just a day to chill and have fun. So there's a lot of shit going on the next few days. But I've been able to squeeze a consultation here and there. I'm actually tomorrow. I know it opened tonight. Yes, I am a Rocky head. I'll go see Rocky 52 or Creed 52 if it comes out. I bought my tickets online the other day. So tomorrow morning, I'm going to see the early show of that. Looking forward to seeing that. Something I've always watched as a kid. One of them movies. Anyway, they could come out with Rocky 57. I'd be there. I'd be at the theater to watch that shit. So I'm going to catch a flick tomorrow, chill with some family. I'm going to be kicking it for the next couple of days. So if you need a consultation, just email me. We'll figure it out. Everybody stay up. And again, if you haven't requested an invite, I got with some of you guys that have for the 30th, just send me an email. We'll put you on the list. We'll have a brief conversation about it, and we'll go from there. All right, people. As I said, moving forward, I won't be really using no books no more. We're kind of going to do it like this. This is how I used to do it. The first year and a half, 2 years, if you go look at my old videos, I didn't use no books. Something just told me to stop doing that.
or lay off of it now. It just kind of got me bored reading through the shit. We're kind of going to do it like this moving forward. I'll just create a topic and we're just going to dialogue on the topic. I'm not going to really fuck with the books like that. Duma, I appreciate you assisting me with the books because I don't have the books in front of me. So it was tough for me. I'm glad you had thrown that all up. So I appreciate the help with that. I'll throw the books out there, just get your references, but I'm not going to really be utilizing books no more in the videos and reading through them. We'll just kick it like this. Everybody have a safe holiday. If you're going to be drinking and getting your drink on, drink responsibly. If you're going to go out clubbing and dancing, do that responsibly. Stay away from knuckleheads. I know this is a big weekend for people to hang out. You got friends and relatives coming in from out of town and you want to take them out. You know, do your thing, have your fun. Enjoy the weekend. Fuck all that. Use Thanksgiving as that. Give thanks, you know, for what you got, not for what you don't got. That's it. That's Thanksgiving. Peace and love. We'll see you people on the next one. All right? Peace.